make some more work for Emma as punishment for calling Randy the co-host and not me. I'm not.
Well, I can
I'm
put
never
that part
that.
in. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of From the Fourth Line. My name's Emma. Oh, wait, I forgot to say we're presented by Offside. No!
Emma, one job.
I have more than one job on this show, and you know it.
Episode 105 of not having the same intro.
Look, I had it down pat, and then we changed it. Well, we're presented by Offside. My name's Emma, and I'm joined, as always, by my lovely host, Marcie. And, of course, we have two special guests with us. We have the co-host of Offside's new podcast, The Coast. We have Kasey, who is our staff editor, and also staff writer, and beat writer for the Edmonton Oilers. And then, of course, we have the lovely K, who is a staff writer as well, also runs the column Stats Chat over at Offside. Yeah. You guys can say hi.
Hello. We didn't want to make more work for you.
Yeah.
No, it's all right.
Pacific. We love the Pacific Division. Hearts for the Pacific.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It allows us to not talk about the Vancouver Canucks, but today we're going to talk about the Vancouver Canucks.
And the Edmonton Oilers, of course.
And the Edmonton Oilers. We can start, actually, off the top, we can start with that game. Because we do always do a game recap for the Leafs. Because this is, at the end of the day, a Leafs podcast. Thank you. We've tricked you into coming on a Leafs podcast.
Oh, no.
We've done it.
They both just leave.
But yeah, Toronto was taking on the Edmonton Oilers Saturday night, hockey night in Canada. The game was at 5 p.m. local, which apparently causes a stir. But then, I don't know why we were making it such a big deal. And maybe this is me going like, East Coast, 7 p.m., woohoo! But like, even then, Connor McDavid was like, I prefer the 5 p.m. games. So like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I know that like in Vancouver it's really bad because it's starting at 7 p.m. local time. When they play Vancouver, it starts at 4 p.m. local time. So I know people in Vancouver I know people in Vancouver always get mad because they're like, why do we have to play a game in our home rink on a Saturday at 4 p.m.? Like, why are we starting this game on Saturday at 4 p.m.? And like they don't even do it for any other team. It's just the Leafs. So I know everyone gets annoyed about that.
The Leafs.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Sure.
But like, it was really funny that like, specifically, it was like Connor McDavid was making this huge, wasn't even him. It was people asking about it, making it this huge deal. And then he was like, well, actually, I prefer playing at 5 p.m. than I do at 7.
And it was so funny because everybody was like, oh, he's so mad, when it was just clearly like a joke.
Yeah, you're like asking the guy from Toronto who grew up a fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs to the point that there's all those pictures of him, like that one picture of him holding a Leafs jersey that goes around every single year at this, like, when the Leafs play the Oilers. But it's like, oh, you're asking the guy who grew up in Toronto if he hates the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, but also like, unfortunately, we can't really hate the Leafs that much, considering half the Oilers roster always seems like it is made up of former Toronto Maple Leafs.
There's so many of them this season in particular, where I'm like, this is actually getting kind of absurd. How many?
Yeah, because like, off the top of my head, and like, Kay had to correct me the other day. It's like Connor Brown, Zach Hyman, John Klingberg, Calvin Pickard. You had
Travis Dermott.
Yeah, we had Travis Dermott, and I think
there's
that's
someone
all
else. At one,
right
well, it was like even like the guys who at one point like played for the Leafs and then like played for the Oilers at some point after they played for the Leafs. Like, you can throw in Cody Ceci, you can throw in Tyson Barrie.
Oh yes,
I can just start listing off names here of
everyone.
There's too many. There's too many of them. Just
Jack Campbell.
And,
like, do you want me to keep going?
Such a long list.
It's so many.
Ending.
And
Sorry, Leafs PR just tweeted out something.
Oh,
Minton has been assigned to the Marlies, and Dakota Mermis has been recalled from the Marlies.
Just fell to my knees.
Okay. Who is hurt on defense? Oh, Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
oh yeah, what happened to him?
Well, it's really bad when like
I
even
wanna
the
know,
coach
too.
doesn't. It's bad when like the coach doesn't know and he's like, I didn't see it. We'll see.
Real.
But we're
Why
getting
do
ahead
I
of
do this
ourselves.
to
We're
myself?
getting ahead of ourselves. But yeah, this game is the reason that we wanted specifically Kasey on the show. Because it's always a good game when these two teams play each other. Joseph Poole gets to start versus Stuart Skinner, which like doesn't surprise anyone ever.
No, yeah.
We've hit the point where like me announcing the starting goalies is not a
It's
surprise.
yeah.
Joseph Poole gets the start. Also as well, John Tavares and Matthew Nyes were back to the lineup, which
Yay!
is huge.
Huge.
It's big. William Nylander scores his 30th goal of the season because he's William Nylander.
Such a sexy goal as well.
That's a problem. It was a good goal too.
Yeah,
Like,
high slot.
So good.
Stuart Skinner's weakness.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah. And then, well, because I also have a note on here about the fact that like Stuart Skinner has bad rebound control.
Yeah.
Which
the other scouting report on him is that because like this is what I've heard from like the goalie person I listen to is that like because he's so tall, he has a really hard time with high slot shots because when he goes down, he's like less agile, so he can't get up as fast, and therefore like when he goes down to save one, you can get a rebound real easily by just going up above his shoulder because he can't get up in time to defend against the high slot shots. So that's like there's a known scouting report on Stuart Skinner that if you go high in the corner that you probably will get it through him.
You're getting ahead of me for a second because we do have no, just in the way of like there is exactly a goal that was scored that way in this game, but we haven't gotten there yet.
Oh,
we have to talk about Matthew Nyes first.
I'm sorry. I must admit that as a known Leafs and Oilers hater, I actively avoided this game. So I have no idea what happened. I'm just saying general things.
No, but you're right because that's how Bobby McMahon scored.
I could have
so
that's why you're Bobby McMahon.
Listen, I'm not a betting person, but if I was, I would put money every single time on there being a high slot shot on Stuart Skinner because that's a moneymaker. It happens every game.
Yeah, but like he wasn't high slot. Bobby McMahon was off of a rebound above Stuart Skinner's shoulder. So like that's what I'm saying. You're getting ahead of me because we do actually have to talk about Matthew Nyes' first game since returning to the lineup on the power play, net front, and this is where I go.
Oh my god!
Sign that contract. I don't care because people are starting to talk about offer sheeting Matthew Nyes, and I fear we cannot do that.
I'm not strong enough. I am not mentally strong enough. I will do something drastic.
As someone who has lived.
Yeah, I was gonna say, now that we mentioned offer sheets.
As someone who's lived like through 4 offer sheets, 2 with the Habs and 2 last season with Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, I personally think it would be really funny if they did offer sheet Matthew Nyes, but also I wish that on no one because it is evil.
It's the thing though where it's like someone could totally like decide to screw over the Leafs by offer sheeting Matthew Nyes at something like pretty high. Like someone who has the cap space to do that could like totally screw over the Leafs because the Leafs very highly value Matthew Nyes and it's very obvious that they want him to stay because despite the fact that he doesn't have a contract, Brad, please. It's very obvious that like he's playing, top line. He is that left winger that Marner and Matthews like need in terms of just he can stand in the front and be very, very large. Which like good job, but it's that thing where it's like, oh, someone could offer sheet him really high if they have the picks and whatever for it, screw over the Leafs, and then the Leafs have to like I don't want to say overpay, but then the Leafs have to like, it kind of messes with their very carefully constructed cap plans that kind of revolve around how much money does Mitch Marner get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. I don't even have the cap going up in my. That's.
Oh my god, yeah.
But yeah, and then Bobby McMahon though scores the power play because you know that second unit is also weirdly good. But yeah, Bobby McMahon literally exactly how Kay talked about Stuart Skinner's goaltending weakness. It was off of a rebound, puts it high above Stuart Skinner's shoulder, and we.
It was beautiful.
It's also like the Alberta boy in him, like me and him. I call him soul sister, even though, you know, he plays for my most hated team from the same small ass town. I should swear.
Oh no, you can.
You are fine.
You can.
I'm not allowed to swear anymore.
I forgot we didn't talk about the swearing rules on the show. We try to keep it to a minimum. It used to be way worse, and then my dad at one point sent me a text, "Hi Dad," that said, "Hey, you swear a lot," and it was like, well, it's not me.
I got told off.
Were you silent or were you silenced?
I was silenced. This is censorship.
Let Marcie swear 2025. Let her swear. Let her swear.
Free me.
Just keep it to a minimum. I don't bleep anything out though, so the podcast is like it is like explicit in Spotify. Like when you can say like contains explicit content, it does contain explicit content.
Very fair.
But yeah, no, Mr. Wainwright, Alberta, Bobby McMahon.
I love him so much. This was such a huge game for like us specifically. Like everyone we love was scarring.
And I only watched the last 2 minutes because I actually was at the Sens game, Sens and Wild, which that happened.
Yeah.
It felt cruel to be there by the end of it. People were leaving with 2 minutes left. The score was 6-0. Gustafsson had faced 50 shots.
That was I tweeted it out after I saw the score of that game, which is like, I know that he's probably not going to get consideration because he's missed so many games, but that game is like a key example of why
why Kirill
Kaprizov should be in the Hart conversation, because he's been out injured for, I want to say, a few weeks now. He came back for a bit and then he was injured again, or it was a relapse in the injury.
They decided to have him undergo surgery because I think it became a point where it was like you could either like Gabriel Landeskog him and ruin him, have him play through the season. It was like something where it's like he could play at 70% through the season, or you could have him be out in a time that includes 4 nations.
Yeah.
And get him back for 100% closer to the playoffs.
Yeah, and like honestly, that game, like that particular game against the Sens, is like the perfect example of why, even though he's missed so many games with injury, he should definitely be in the Hart consideration. He is such an engine of that Wild team. Like, even though he's a winger, he does everything. He scores, he creates chances, he backchecks. Like, watching Kirill Kaprizov play for the Wild this season has been magical. Honestly, he's so much fun to watch, and he's such a fun player, and I think he should be in the Hart consideration, even though he's missed so many games. This is I wouldn't say Kirill Kaprizov for Hart because I'm still Quinn Hughes for Hart truther, but Kirill Kaprizov for Hart finalist. That is my rallying cry.
Because I watched that game and like Wild were like it was also one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, the Ottawa Senators have kind of built themselves a really good lineup. Oops. I should know this as someone who covers them, but it's like one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, when it all clicks for them, they're scary. The only problem is it hasn't all clicked very often for them this season, and it will continue to have that kind of stagger with Josh Norris out now. But like, yeah, Wild only got 16 shots that game. It felt mean to be there. I think Brock Faber clocked some ridiculous ice time, as always, and I was like, oh, Brock Faber's really fast. That's what I noticed.
Like fast young players, like if with Kaprizov especially, because Kaprizov is a speed demon, like an underrated speed demon. But Kaprizov and Faber, like when they're on the ice together, it's crazy. They can move through the neutral zone crazy fast. They just have such good chemistry between the defense and the forwards. But when it's not working and when they don't have their key pieces, it all falls apart. Like they just cannot keep it together. Like I think the Wild especially are one of those teams where they need to be like 100% or almost 100% healthy for their kind of dynamics to work. And as you could see against the Sens, when they're not, then oh dear.
You know what's bad when you're losing 5-0 and people are chanting, "We want Fleury." I'm like, no, you don't. Don't put him through this.
It's like, are you gonna make that old man in his retirement season go through even more horror?
So far down the tunnel too.
Sending Fleury out to the like Arrested Development music, like da na 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 na.
Well, it was the thing too, where it was like Fleury is a guy who sits further back on the bench, but like he wasn't even sitting at the bench. He was sitting halfway. I think it was halfway down the tunnel, because there were certain parts in the game where I was like, is Fleury like still sitting there? Like, is he still there or is he gone? Because you couldn't see him like from where my seats were. I was like, which is very different.
If Coach can't see me, he can't put me in the game. He's gonna hide. Like sitting turtling. There, like,
baseball hat on, like
like trying to hide in his jersey, like pulling it up over his nose. Like, I'm not here. I don't exist.
Which is very different than like when I was there like the week before and like watched Matt Murray like work the door like a pro. Like he was halfway over the boards all the time. And I was like, okay, we know you want in, but no.
Door opener.
Yeah. But yeah, no, back to this game. Then the Oilers. Yeah, actually, no, we do this all the time. It's fine. People are used to it. People are used to it.
We jump around so.
Oh, when we had Randy on the show, we were half jumping back to the game that was happening at the time. The Leafs game that was happening while we were recording. So listening to that pod, I don't know why like 60 people listen to it. Like it's one of our most listened to episodes, and I was like, that's 2 hours of us watching a game while also trying to do a podcast and getting distracted by the game. And then us at one point going, Connor Dewar, Joel Farabee fight.
The people yearn for Randy.
Yeah.
Randy, my goat.
Yeah, but then Evan Bouchard scored because, okay. It's one of those ones I was like, yeah. Scary man who I always think is like way older than he actually is.
No, he's like 20 something. I should know this.
He's 20. I want to say he's 27. I think he's 2017 draft class. I think he's the same draft class as Elias Pettersson.
He's 25.
Oh, I was going to say that 27 is Mitch Marner age. I know this.
Marner's 27?
Marner's 27.
That sounds wrong. I don't like that.
Yeah, May 5th. Yeah, May 5th, 1997.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah, he's 27. I know this because this is so bad how I do this math in my head, though, but it's like Joseph Will's 26, Marner's 27 because it's a draft earlier. Evan Bouchard 25 because a draft later. It's bad! It's like using Paul Rudd as like my celebrity like age. Like I know how old Paul Rudd is.
He's like 50.
He's 54.
Really?
Huh. He's born in 69.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. Wait, my dad's.
Yeah. I know. My mom's the same age as Paul Rudd. That's how I use that.
My dad's 54?
Anyways.
I didn't know that.
Anyways, that aside, yeah, and then Mitch Marner does Mitch Marner things. Puts the Leafs up 4-1. Mitch Marner. I have this written down. Mitch Marner, you sick freak, triple deke into the zone, WTF.
No,
that's how that goal is described.
he was so good on zone entry, and it made me so mad because I was like, Oilers like only had like 2 goals to go. I was like surely they can like get their like get kicked in gear, and then Mitch Marner appears.
A Mitch Marner punch. That's offside, absolute offside brain rot.
Truly. I use that phrase too much in my vocabulary to the point Randy once had to edit out of my recaps and be like, "You've said this twice already? No more."
But yeah, no, Mitch Marner, and it's one of those things where he was really good in zone entries this game, which is nice because when I saw him in person last week for a game that I paid for, he was not. He was not.
Yeah.
I paid money to see the Leafs play the Ottawa Senators. I do it every time, and every time I'm severely disappointed and/or upset by the outcome. Even when they win, Joseph Wool is hurt.
An endless cycle.
Endless cycle. I still pay money to go. But yeah, and then because like, yeah, no duh, this is gonna happen. Zach Hyman makes it 4-2.
Yeah.
Former Leaf scoring on the Leafs? No way.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, shocker.
Yeah. I had my money on it being John Klingberg because he entered the lineup. He entered the lineup on their game on Thursday. So that was his second game with the Oilers. I had my money it being him or Connor Brown because I was like, if I'm going to have a former Leaf score, I want it to be my former Leaf.
Your favorite former Leaf, Connor Brown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but no, Hyman had like a really good goal, and that was the point where I was like, okay, we got this game.
Yeah, and then Corey Perry scores, and then because Corey Perry. I was like, sure, Corey Perry. Why not? Of course, it's Corey Perry. Mm-hmm. And this was a conversation we were having last night, but like literally the most like winningest guy ever is Corey Perry.
Mm-hmm.
He literally has won everything there is to win, and that's why he's cursed now.
Yeah. I just couldn't believe he was the one guy that like won the Like, what do you mean you have a Memmer title? A gold medal, like triple gold, and the Hart and the Rocket. I was like,
and a World Juniors
and a Canadian Cup
and a Canadian Cup. Like thank God he's not going to 4 Nations, because could you imagine?
It's also so funny that like most, if not all of his achievements are before 2012. And he still had like he still played 13 years after that. Like he won everything, and then he's just been kind of coasting for the past 13 years.
He's like, "Oh, look at my resume. Just don't look at the years in which I did this."
If he went to a job interview, they'd be like, "Why do you have a 13-year gap on your resume?" He'd be like, "Funny you should mention it."
Think about that.
So I have been employed, I swear.
It's like when you talk about like, oh yeah, like if you start like, because all the time people are like, oh, Hockey Hall of Fame ? I'm like, do you put Corey Perry in the Hockey Hall of Fame? Well, based on his achievements, yes, because he has every of those automatic Hockey Hall of Fame achievements, but also like a lot of those. Also, it's Corey Perry. It's also one of those things where like a lot of them were him being like right place, right time kind of thing. Like World Juniors, I'm like, yeah, because you were playing for the World Juniors in a time where like Canada was a sick, freaky country and was just good at everything.
That reminds me of the like I want to say it's one of the Ben brothers, I think Jamie Benn, where it's like, yeah, Jamie Benn has a heart.
It's not Jordy Ben, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Jamie Benn, but like
Leafs legend Jordy Ben.
Jamie Benn has Canadians legend.
Jamie Benn has a heart. Look how many points he got in his Hart season. 89 points, and he won the Hart. Like, let's think about that for a second.
It's like the Joe Thornton Richard win.
Yeah.
I'm like, this shouldn't count. You should not have given this to anyone this season. Like, it was like bits of like dead puck era, and it's like, yeah, Joe Thornton Hart. Like, much respect Joe Thornton, but like Joe Thornton heart. Leafs legend Joe Thornton.
Leafs legend.
Florida Panthers legend Jumbo Joe.
That's way better than Leafs. But yeah, like, because Corey, like, it's also a thing too where it's like, oh yeah, his member win, he was with the London Knights and he was playing against Sidney Crosby. Right play, like, I want to look at that London Knights roster. See, we always do this every time, is there's always one, hold on. But yeah, just like one of those, or like even like when he was at the Olympics, like right place, right time, freak sort of like win stuff. He joined,
yeah, because like 2010, he was there a couple of years after he won like the Stanley Cup with Anaheim too.
And in Anaheim, it was right place, right time too, because I was doing research for a piece I did earlier this year for Offsides, and like the 2007 Anaheim Ducks team was really, really right place, right time. It was like right after the lockout. They had they'd shipped out a bunch of their vets. They just got a bunch of like new hot rookie players like Getzlaf and Corey Perry, and they just kind of clicked and they all came together.
It's like it's one of those things where I'm like, you gotta read. Like, I don't know if your research was like Brian Burke's book. He has like a whole, well, if he does have a whole section on his time.
My research was very surface level because it was for my edit hockey teams as European footy teams article. It was very surface level.
Okay. But it's
like Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. No, because Brian.
In case
Burke's
you're
book,
curious, the Anaheim Ducks were Leicester City to me. That was my comparison. It was a bad one, but works. Trust.
Mars giving you a face.
I know. But listen, you gotta read. I justify it. It's mostly bad justification, but I do justify it. I don't remember what it was, the justification, but I did have a point. I promise. I'm a footy knower. I promise.
It's fine, that makes one of us, because...
like my shameful secret.
I'm sorry, but yeah, Brian Burke's book he does a whole thing where he talks specifically about the Anaheim Ducks cover, and he literally I think he himself describes it as right place, right time moment in terms of his career and him being in Anaheim for it, and also like just the way that went, where it was very much a right place, right time. The team they beat in the finals, the Ottawa Senators. Like, we could have Ottawa Senators being a cup winner, and that horrifies me. That horrifies me so much.
They would have been the team to break the Canadian Cup curse.
They would have been the last team to win the Stanley Cup for as a Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup. First of all, it would have been the Ottawa Senators fans would have had something to stand on, because the easiest way to be like, shut up, you're annoying, is to go, well, how many cup wins do you have? And they have nothing. So they have nothing to stand on that aspect. They would have also had something to be like, oh, Leafs haven't won since 1967, but we won in 2007. Get wrecked. They would have been so annoying.
We can't give them that. That's why we need to be bad for forever.
Yeah.
No, but I've looked up.
That's why the Canucks should have broke the curse in 2011.
I've looked
or
up
1994. I'm not picky.
I've looked at the roster of that 09 Knights team, and I don't recognize, and maybe some of it is because they were playing junior hockey in 2005, but it's like there's only a handful of names that I recognize on this list, and one of them is like, it's like Corey Perry, one of them is Leafs legend Dave Bolland. I say Leafs legend, he played 23 games in Toronto, but then won 2 cups with Chicago. Mark Mathot, Sens legend Mark Mathot. Literally, like, Brandon Prust, if that's a name that stands out to you.
Brandon Prust! Oh my god! What a throwback! I don't even know where I know that name from, but I'm like... Oh.
Yeah, like, it's like, literally, I'm like looking at these list of names, don't recognize any of them at all. Their starting goaltender, though, had a save percentage of .941.
Oh my god.
He played 2 games in the NHL.
Typical juniors.
Classic OHL.
But classic OHL. Like Brandon Press played at one point for the Vancouver Canucks. That's why you know that name.
Yeah, probably in the early
In 15-16 he played.
Yeah,
15-16
there we go.
He played
15,
35
16.
games.
Yep, there we go.
But yeah, no, like I'm literally looking at these names. I'm like, I don't recognize any of these names except for like literally a handful of them. And I think that kind of proves that the OHL and like the member in general is such like you have to be in the right place, right time. Like even if you go back to like last year, if we want to talk about the London Knights, if we want to talk about the London, just like
we're gonna
you
talk
expected
about
them
the
to
London
win,
Knights.
and then they lost by like such close margins to Saginaw. And it's like, oh. Remember winner Owen Beck?
Yeah. I was like, they knocked out Moose Jaw, and like fundamentally, as a WHL fan, I hate Moose Jaw because they've been better than the Pats. I do, because they're so annoying, and they always beat the Pats. But that's not saying much because the Pats are bad right now. But like,
if we want to talk about like offside like work chat, I hate this job.
We don't hate, I hate.
But yeah, no. Then Leon Draisaitl ties it up. But then the goal is getting challenged for offside. And in a very, very poetic full circle moment, I think this really sums up the poetic narratives of every time the Leafs play the Oilers every single time. It is called back for offside because you know who's offside on the play? Leafs legend John Klingberg. Poetic.
It was beautiful.
I had no opinions of John Klingberg going into like him signing the contract
that didn't last
because
long.
he was truly just a guy that like played for the Leafs, and I was like, most guys that played for the Leafs, yeah,
played for the Leafs, then got put on LTIR for an entire season.
Yeah, I was like, this is an okay signing because we can just bury him in the minors, and you know what I needed them to do yesterday? Bury him in the minors.
And that's the contract is variable, and it's like there is like a bonus on him. Like that bonus is like for how many games he plays. Which really hit that number. I doubt it.
I don't think so.
It depends on how desperate Edmonton's blue line gets. But yeah, so goals calls back. Leafs are still in the lead. Leon Draisaitl not today because then Joseph Woll goes X Games.
It was
Joseph fucking Woll.
Joseph Woll, after like in this game, he faces 48 shots, stops 3 of them, and saves his best saves for the last 30 seconds of the game.
Oh my god.
I've seen that sequence. I've watched that sequence so many times, it's actually upsetting. And maybe a little bit
so annoying
watching it. Like
yeah.
Yeah. Because
every time we talk about Joseph Woll, I have this little Joseph Woll card on my pin board. Every time we talk about him, he's like in my direct line of sight. Oh, I have 2 cards. And he just like sits, like I can just see him every single time we talk about him, and I'm like, you're such a baby in that picture. If only you could see where you are now.
He's your guardian angel.
Accurate.
He is.
I called you Joseph Woll fan club president earlier in the work chat, and I was like, I feel like that's fitting.
But yeah, no, Joseph
me,
like he
little me.
But yeah, no. Highway Robbery by Joseph Wool. He had a fantastic game because, like, he faced, again, finished with a 938 save percentage for the game, which is very good when you face 48 shots.
Real. He's not.
And the funny thing is he then has like the most like chill-out. Like after the game, he's asked about it, he's like, I just played. I'm like, dude.
It was so annoying because they just pulled Skinner to try and force an OT. I was very surprised given how everything goes that the Leafs didn't get an empty net goal.
They didn't, but like I was literally, it was because it was like they had a chance where they had possession. Literally, they had possession in Edmonton's, but like Max Pacioretty didn't shoot the puck, and I'm like, Max Pacioretty, what are you doing?
Thank God. That
Max Pacioretty still has a little bit of Habs loyalty in him, as he should. As he should.
Noted Montreal Canadiens captain Max Pacioretty.
Yeah,
this is all a part of the plan for when, you know, the Habs retake the wild card spot and play the Leafs in the first round, and Max Pacioretty scores an own goal so that the Habs can advance to round 2.
Yes. It's all part
Do you want me personally to live through that experience of 2021 again?
A little bit.
With my
It'd be kind of funny.
With my noted Habs fan of a father?
Well, that would be great for everyone involved. Habs win. Everyone likes that. Everyone liked that very much.
No. But yeah. More various Leafs updates. Stolarz is on the trip. He could get into a game before Four Nations or not. Who knows? Doesn't matter to me. Whatever. Now, Minton, Quillen, and Gulbenkian were sent back down to the AHL as Matthew Nyes and John Tavares returned to the lineup. I will say, as we talked about earlier, and then I get notifications that is Marner and Oliver Ekman-Larsson are absent from Leafs practice due to a maintenance day, which makes me nervous because Oliver Ekman-Larsson like left the game hurt. I'm like, if Mitch Marner's hurt, we're so screwed. We're so screwed
for Four Nations.
Oh my. No, wait. I just remember the Four Nations. Like, now every guy who gets hurt, like, there's, like, Four Nations implications with it for the most, like, there's been multiple of those where I'm like, oh no, the Four Nations implications. Four Nations implications of Mitch Marner being hurt is so very bad. Because every time you put out that roster and build that lineup, you're like, oh yeah, which line should we put Mitch Marner on? Can we put him on all of them?
Yeah. And it's also just like, who do you replace Mitch Marner with at Four Nations? I don't need Nick Suzuki. Yeah. Throw him in there. I'd love it. I'd get to wear my Habs jersey in Boston, which always is funny. But also just like, don't make the man cancel his vacation. He's already had to do it 3 times in a row for All-Stars.
Let Nick Suzuki go on vacation with his fiance. They got engaged at the beginning of the season. Let them go on a vacation together.
Yeah, it's like oh, who do you call up? Mark Scheifele?
I mean, to be fair, Mark Scheifele is playing really well. He's a really good player, but like,
have we considered
vibe-wise?
But have we considered the vibes of like Mitch Marner versus Mark Scheifele? Mitch Marner much higher.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
No.
Also, as well, the AHL All-Star Game was this weekend. We do have to do a little bit of a highlight on the fact that it was Logan Shaw, Dennis Hildeby, and Alex Steeves there. Dennis Hildeby won co-top goaltender for the skills competition last night.
Huge day for me. I woke up to see all that. I was thrilled.
Yeah.
It's like my entire Twitter today has just been me retweeting various pictures of Dennis Hildeby. Just like, that's my girlie.
Yeah.
He's so tiny.
He's 6'7".
Exactly.
It's a very tall man.
Tyler Myers as baby girl. Baby girl Tyler Myers.
Calder winner Tyler.
Calder winner Tyler Myers. That's my favorite running joke ever since Myers and McDavid both got suspended for the same amount of games. With all the protect your stars stuff, is like, yeah, they mean star player Tyler Myers. Only one Calder winner got suspended, and that was Calder winner Tyler Myers. Last active player that went to the playoffs with the Buffalo Sabres, mind you. Put some respect on his name.
He's so old.
Poor guy.
Toronto's next game is in Calgary on Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. So we're yay, late night for me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how wildly unimpressed I am? Do they not realize I have like a life? And also, I need to sleep at some point.
Because the Leafs are playing in Calgary on Tuesday, they had a day off yesterday in which they went to Banff. And I went, yeah, of course they went to Banff. And then I did a really thing where, like, William Nylander posted, like, some Nordic spa. And I was like, I know where that is.
Yeah, I know where that is.
And it's not because I've been there. I haven't been there, but it's right by, I, like, saw it and I was like, wait a minute. And then, because I had actually, it's right by Nikiska.
Yeah, I've gone.
And which is why I was like, wait a minute, I recognize that. That's near Nikiska. I was like, that makes me sound like a crazy stalker that I was like, I know where that is. I'm like, no. I went skiing around there.
It's like, that's just where you go skiing, like in the air. That's where you go skiing, like in the Banff area.
Nikiska. It's like, if you don't want to drive all the way out to Banff, but you still want to do good skiing, you go to Nikiska.
Exactly.
But then I think they had, at one point, did drive, like, all the way out to Banff. And I was like, okay, all right.
I mean, like, truly, it's not that far from Calgary. So,
like, no, it's not.
You can make the journey.
You can make the journey, but I was like, that's actually, like, horrifying just to think about, like, have that mental image. It's like when the New Jersey Devils showed up in Banff, and I was like, no, you don't belong here.
Like, why are you by
why
the gondola?
Is Jack Hughes in Banff?
Oh my goodness. From when the 2019 draft was in Vancouver, and seeing all the pictures of the 2019 draft class at the Vancouver Convention Center, where they all got drafted in the same place that I had my like prom graduation. So I'm like, what do you mean I had my graduation dinner dance in the same place that Jack Hughes got drafted first overall? Like, in the same exact building, in the same ballroom. And I think about that sometimes. I think about that a lot of times, actually. Like, I have all my grad photos, like, on the, like, water outside the convention center. And they did all their, like, silly little photos together. Like, they have a whole, like, group picture with the USNTDP from that year. And I'm like, And I think about it sometimes.
Well, it's the thing that I think about the fact that, like, the 2005 draft was held at, like, the Westin in Ottawa because it was, like, during the lockout. So they were like, how do we do the draft? And I was like, oh, and every time I see that hotel, because it's still here, I'm like, oh, Sidney Crosby got drafted there.
My question is, when are they going to host a draft in Edmonton so I can show up and be like, hey? Well, that's 7 hours away, and it's still, like, close.
It's the thing, too, where it's like they're going decentralized now. So, like, evil. It's so evil. Boo. I'm like, bring it back to where you're having guys have, like, some 18-year-olds are having the biggest day of their life in Buffalo, New York. We used to be a proper league.
Have them get drafted in, like, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Exactly.
Like literally
have them get drafted to their hockey team in Sunrise, Florida. Let's bring
2015 core. Yeah. I remember. I never forget.
I live there in my mind palace. It's just the 2015 draft because The implications.
I remember when Lawson Krauss ate a worm.
He watched that one movie that we all watched in like elementary school, the How to Eat Fried Worms. This is like a very repressed Canadian elementary school memory is How to Eat Fried Worms. Marcie,
oh my god. We're can't
like this is okay. I don't know why it was so common, but like almost everyone I know sometime in elementary school watched the movie How to Eat Fried Worms.
Because I think it was based off of a book.
Yeah.
But it was because it was a YTV movie.
Yes.
Your face is the exact reaction we all had.
I
remember watching it like grade 3. Like we were like 8 or 9. We were watching this movie in class.
Yeah. Well, it's the like he was in Cloud, like the main guy was in Cloud 9. Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to find out like any notable.
Was like very much a Canton movie.
The ginger kid from Lemonade Mouth.
Oh yeah. It was I don't even remember.
Oh my god, Thomas Cavanaugh was in it. From The Flash.
Oh my god.
I don't even remember any of the plot points, but that movie was such an integral part of like my elementary school years.
I'm like
the voice of Nemo in Finding Nemo. Okay, like
classic.
You know how you are with like you know how like British people are, even though we watched it too with that one with what's his face? Oh my god, helpful. Angus Thongs and Perfect Stogging.
Yeah.
You know how like that's how we are with like How to Eat Fried Worms.
Classic. And it's like
it's weirder because it's for like children.
Yeah.
Instead of
it's about
teenage girls.
Worms.
It literally that is the plot of the movie.
That is the main plot.
I like sure. Sure. Why not?
No, literally like the whole plot is about eating fried worms.
Yeah, this guy was dared to eat worms, and he has to find out a way to eat them.
I'm gonna, after this, I'm just gonna read through the reviews on Letterboxd because
sorry.
That's my favorite thing to do.
I will say though, the final line of the Wikipedia plot for it that's a little bit funny out of context is the kids all run outside and celebrate as Billy and Joe both take the worms out of their pants and throw them into the air.
I do remember that scene too. This is like such a repressed memory. Like I didn't even remember that I remembered it until I thought about it.
No, exactly.
I had to read that out loud for Marcie because Marcie was like concerned.
Poor Marcie.
I am so worried for Canadian children.
No, it's fine. It's fine because we also had Degrassi.
We did. Or The Next Step.
The next step.
The next step.
Yeah.
I ate that shit up.
So good.
Anyone else think that it was actually real? And then you were like, no, this surely is so bad. It cannot be a real documentary.
See, I didn't think it was real because I was a dancer and I was at a dance studio and I'm like, we don't do confessionals. It's definitely not real.
Not even like it's not like, oh, you know, well, I'm not getting filmed when I'm at dance studio. No, we just also don't do confessionals.
Yeah, no, it had nothing to do with the filming or anything. But like the thing is that like one of the people who went to my studio was in The Next Step. So I also did know that it was actors because she was an actor in The Next Step. We like had this whole meeting before she like came to class like on the first day and they're like, oh, make sure you don't like act weird about her because she is in The Next Step, but like don't be weird about it. We're like, okay. It's just normal.
It was always one of those things where I was like, I genuinely don't know if it's real or not. It's like the same level of I can't tell whether it's real as up until like an embarrassing age, I couldn't tell whether the Polar Express was live action or not. I was like 12 watching it, just like, I still don't know if these guys are real. And then I think my mum just sat me down one day and was like, "Go. It's not real."
To be fair, the Polar Express is so uncanny valley.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. That style of animation creeps me out.
I still watch it sometimes. I'm like, I can understand why I didn't know whether it was real or not.
Mm-hmm.
I do just feel a bit silly.
Out of all the animated movies, that's definitely like one of the more believable, like realistic ones. I did think that this is my embarrassing. I was pretty young, but I did think that Roly Poly Oly was a live action TV. It's like, I guess they just filmed other planets, I guess.
Mar, do you know what Roly Poly Oly is? Because I think that's another Canadian show.
Oh my
context, it's like a show
just
where the people,
even if you
Google it, Roly Poly Oly, the people are made out of literal shapes. Like, they're all circles, like stacked on top of each other like snowmen. And like the other people are squares. And I was like, checks out.
Like, even if you just Google Roly Poly Oly, like you will get the gist of like how this show, it cannot be a real show.
Yeah, you can, but I was like really little. I was like 4 or 5. I was like,
we're referencing all these like Canadian shows.
Yeah, I'm realizing now that this is like very much like a Treehouse original on Sunday mornings.
Yeah. Right, it was because it was right. I think it was right before Octonauts.
Yeah.
Yes. On Sunday mornings, it was right before Octonauts and right after
Littlest Pet Shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then on PBS, it was Dinosaur Train and then Super Y.
Yes. Mark's like.
This is okay. To be fair, I was like,
why we limit the guests we have on the show because
I was a
CanCon, and Mar's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
I was a very sheltered child in terms of media. I didn't really I wasn't really allowed to watch that much TV or anything. So like the limited TV I did watch, I didn't have like much context. So like when I was like super young, like 4 or 5, Roly Poly Oly was like one of like 2 shows I watched. So that's why I was like, okay, this must be live action, because I was like the only other like shows I regularly watched were like musicals. Like I would watch West Side Story and like The Sound of Music, and my parents would just like skip to all the songs. So like, well, if the only other things I watch on TV are from real life, this must just be real life but somewhere else. Like, makes sense to me.
Very different upbringings in which I watched so much TV as a child to the point that it probably was problematic.
My parents were like, if you think about the stereotype of like BC parents of like being granola parents, always outside, yeah.
No, mine was like,
I went on a lot of hikes. We went on puddle walks. Like, we collected sticks. That was my childhood. We had a forest in a bush that we called the Dragon's Den, where we would go and play pretend that we were dragons. And it was just a bush near my house.
Your Dragon's Den was play pretend. My Dragon's Den was on CBC.
And had Kevin O'Leary on it.
And also Brad Treliving's dad.
Oh yes.
Of course. See, my special like TV watching experience was watching like me and all my siblings. So I have 3 little brothers. So after we would play soccer, it was soccer Saturdays always, and then of course boys soccer's on Saturdays, girls soccer is on Sundays. Because if you don't know, I don't know if this is like this anywhere else in Canada, but in BC at least, it's boys soccer is on Saturdays and girls hockey is on Saturdays, and then boys hockey is on Sundays and girls soccer is on Sundays. So you could play both soccer and hockey. So many people play soccer and hockey that they organize it specifically so that you could play both sports. Anyway, that's not the point. But the point was that after soccer on Saturdays, we would go home and we'd watch the double on Discovery Channel of Cash Cab and then Mythbusters. And that was like our special treat after it was raining at soccer. We'd get to go home and watch Cash Cab and Mythbusters.
Oh, Mythbusters.
My question is, did any of you guys watch House of Anubis?
Yes.
Yes. This
Oh my
is
God.
This could just be me being very sheltered. I don't
It
know like
probably
anything.
was.
I have the first
because-
season of House of Anubis on DVD, and that is my prized possession because you cannot find it anywhere. I got it for Christmas 3 years ago, and 4 years ago.
Well, no, that's
recently.
the thing is because I thought it was a fever dream that I had cooked up as a child because like you can't find like actual proof. Like there's a Wikipedia show and a fan wiki, whatever, but like you can't actually find like footage of this show on the internet anywhere, and it used to be on Netflix, and then they took it off Netflix, and I'm like, I feel like I don't have proof that the show actually existed because I can't find like actual footage of this show anywhere. And I thought it was some fever dream that I had cooked up and watched because I watched so much TV as a child that I was combining like 4 different shows into one show. Well, also putting a little bit of like, at the time I was also reading The Unwanteds, like the book series. I thought I just was combining like 7 different medias that I read as a child into one TV show. And it was some fever dream that my overstimulated child brain cooked up.
See, I watched House of Anubis in Dutch because my family.
Oh, damn!
Because my like family is like from Belgium, so like my great grandmother, and she would be like, "Okay, you have to learn like Dutch." Like I never did, but she's like, "You're gonna watch these TV shows in Dutch while you're at my house," and so she'd put it on, and I'd have no idea what was happening, but I do remember watching it.
Oh, that's crazy. No, I have such an insane emotional attachment to House of Anubis, where it's like I will rewatch it every year. Like I'll binge it all. Every year I have to get progressively drunker to be able to sit through it because I realized just how horrific the acting is. I'm just like, it's so bad and so painful, but I love it.
This doesn't matter, but we were talking about the Minnesota Wild earlier. They just traded Sammy Walker to Utah for future considerations.
So they're gonna send him back to the Wild next season, like they did with
if we're following Kyle Dubas's rules of trading.
Kyle.
But speaking of trades, I kind of wanted, we got off track, but I was going to make this really cool segment because we were talking about the Leafs playing the Flames, and I was going to be like, well, speaking of the Calgary Flames, on Thursday night, very late after our Thursday episode went up, the Calgary Flames, this is, again, one of those trades that started from, like, probably, arguably the smallest part of the trade. And it was an Elliot Friedman tweet, and then it blew up really, really big, was it started with, Kuzmenko is getting traded. And I think a lot of people who pay attention to the Calgary Flames was like, okay, yeah, sure, that makes sense. And then the rest of it happened.
Yeah, that was the second time where I've been on call with Kay in the past week where a huge trade happened.
Yeah, we were all like, that was the thing too. It was like we were all there. It was because it was like Thursday nights is like we sit in offsides until 2 a.m. and talk.
Yeah. Casey and I, we were on call when the Rantanen trade broke, and we saw the Rantanen return, and we were trying to take turns guessing on what the return from Carolina would be based on cap hit. And so we were trying to do the math on Puckpedia and like going back and forth and placing our bets on who would be the return. I think we got Natchez right, but we didn't get Drury. We thought it would be, who was it? I forget. Someone else. We thought it would be someone who's not Drury, but
sorry. Yeah, I'm now looking at like Joel Farabee's like Hockey DB page to get the actual full trade details. Spoiler: Joel Farabee's involved.
Spoiler for a trade that happened 5 days ago.
Yeah. I don't know, but like, turns out this is actually kind of a crazy thing. Is that his draft pick, right? So like his pick was involved in a trade in 2017. Like, we're talking about hypothetical teenagers here, in which it's like how Braden's Shen ended up in St. Louis from Philly, and his pick was with another first-round pick, and that other first-round pick ended up being Morgan Frost.
You're kidding.
That's so crazy.
I'm not.
But
yeah, so the full trade details of this one, though, is from the Philadelphia Flyers trade Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost to the Calgary Flames for Andrei Kuzmenko, Jacob Peltier, and a second-round pick in the 2025 draft, and a seventh-round pick in the 2028 draft, which that draft is so far in the future, I'm not a fan.
That's a child. That's a child right now.
That's
an infant.
That's a hypothetical 15-year-old. That kid's in grade 10 math right now.
Mm-hmm.
Struggling through quadratic
equations.
Kids
in pre-calculus.
Yeah. He's getting ready to get drafted to the WHL next year.
He's taking his numeracy and literacy exams.
I was gonna say, if this
quadratic equations and had a full body reaction.
If this kid's Ontario, he's getting ready to take his lit test this spring, so he can graduate high school. His grade 10 literacy test. That's what he's preparing for. That was very much an Ontario reference.
In VCU, we do literacy and numeracy in grade 10.
No, because grade
literacy
3, 6, 9 is EQAO, and then grade 10 is the literacy test, or the lit test.
EQAO is a crazy acronym. So sorry. I mean, it's not any better in BC. It's FSA, but
yeah. But then, in grade 10, it's the literacy test that's just reading, and you have to pass it to graduate high school. But then every year, as soon as everyone gets out of the exam, people are already making memes. I remember getting out of there's there was memes made and stuff, and this is this is for people who listen to the show who are from Ontario and took the lit test the same year that I did. But I remember the whole thing where it was mustard seeds to fight malaria was one of the reading examples we had to look at. There's also bioluminescent turtles. There was this whole thing. But yeah, that trade I think was crazy because Danny Briere, you sick man.
Oh my god. If I think about Danny Briere and his course of action and the things he does too often, I just
you start to twitch a little bit.
It's him and Kyle Dubas, not even my GM. Because Kent Hughes can do no wrong. That man is a master at the trade game. But Briere and Dubas, I just I twitch every time they move because I'm just what is your aim? What are you trying to do?
Genuinely, there are two of the GMs where I'm do you have a plan? Do you have a plan? Or are you just kind of picking up the phone and doing whatever you feel like that day? Danny Briere woke up and was you know what? I'm going to make a trade. And then he did.
No, because it's not even woke up that day. He saw Claude Giroux reach 1,100 points that night and was I need to act.
He was 2 whiskeys in, man,
I need to do something drastic.
He was sitting in the press box at the because the Flyers were playing. Both of these teams were playing while this trade was
this
getting done.
This was a mid-game trade.
Yeah.
He was sitting in the Flyers press box, saw that tweet come up on his timeline, and was I need to do something. And he picked up the phone and called up, I can't even remember. Oh, Chris Conroy. He called up Chris Conroy. I'm so proud of him. It's all these trades are getting made that I'm actually forced to learn GM names.
Yeah.
Besides the 4 and that I know.
He what was I gonna say? He saw that his first year bestie got to 1,100 points. He's my rookie needs a first year bestie. He doesn't have a first year bestie.
Yeah, he saw the guy who lived with him and his
I'm trying to be PG.
You saw the guy who lived
trying to be
with his
PG
kids
for
in
the podcast.
You saw the guy who lived with his family in first year. Like, not in first year. If he saw the guy who lived with him and his children, who he put on his family Christmas card and called them the Brieux, and was like, I need to do something.
Yeah.
Hold on. Apologies to Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee, and also Jacob Peltier, because that kid apparently is an absolute delight, which, like...
He got taken away from his dad.
I saw that name and I was like, I know that from something. And whenever that happens, it's usually you at one point were a Leafs draft pick, or you played for Team Canada at the World Juniors.
And
for Jacob Peltier, it was the latter. He played for Team Canada at World Juniors in 2021, in which he was partnered often with Jamie Drysdale.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Canada lost, he was the kid. Yeah, but then when Canada lost, he was the one who I do remember watching him go around to all of the Canadian guys and like comfort them, and I was like, that's a good kid. From Quebec. I'm like very afraid because no, never mind.
Nope.
But yeah, no, it's just I don't know what this trade does for either of these teams though.
I do.
It causes a lot of distress for gay people on Twitter.
Yeah.
I know it's so during that game as well, there's a clip of John Tortorella arguing with Matvey Michkov on the bench, and they were yelling back and forth at each other. And I know the one player who Tortorella will hate more than Michkov, and that's Andrei Kuzmenko. Andrei Kuzmenko, one of the slowest players in the league. Andrei Kuzmenko, who refuses to backcheck. Andrei Kuzmenko, who smiles all the time at everything for no reason. Like, he could be a -6 on the night, be on the ice for every goal, and be beaten up and bloody, and he will be like, yes, I like hockey. I like to play hockey. And he's just a delight. And John Tortorella hates a delight. He hates delights. He hates smiles. He hates joy. He hates fun. He hates laughter and whimsy. And most of all, he hates Andrei Kuzmenko. Or he will hate Andrei Kuzmenko. I'm predicting it now. This is my prediction.
Well, it's the thing is too, is like thing is now is like, oh, you have a guy who played for the same KHL team as Matvey Michkov, as well as Kuzmenko, which, by the way, I'm looking now. They played together. I just wanted to double check that. They played together. They also played with Leo Komarov. Because I'm looking at that roster and I'm like, oh!
Because Kuzmenko didn't come to the NHL. Yeah, Kuzmenko didn't come to the NHL until 22-23 when he signed with the Canucks. Like, he was really late coming into the NHL. His first year in the NHL was when he was 27. So he played with a lot of the, like, kind of kids, like the younger players who played for...
and Leo Komarov. Sorry. I'm sorry. It's Leo Komarov. Sorry. I just watched the Leafs in 2015.
I feel your pain. The reason why I hate John Tortorella is because he made me suffer through the 2014 Canucks, and then the departures because he ruined the team. And notably tried to fight the entire Calgary Flames locker room, and now coaches aren't allowed in the visiting locker room in Rogers Arena because John Tortorella tried to fight the entire Calgary Flames roster while they were in full gear in the visiting team's dressing room.
So good.
He's a character, that man. I called him John Tortellini for an entire 3 years because I wanted him to get annoyed and leave the city. Did he know me? No. Did I know him? No. Was he only with the Canucks for 11 months? Yes. But I was convinced he was the coach for 3 whole years, and I called him John Tortellini the entire time.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, God. But yeah, no. This is also me realizing that, like, Joel Farabee is 24. I thought he was older because he looks older than 24.
Yeah, he really edged him.
Can I make a
confession? He looks older, but he just looks worse.
I don't know which one is Joel Farabee and which one is Morgan Frost.
Joel Farabee is the bald one. Morgan Frost is the not bald one from Aurora, Ontario.
That doesn't help me. They both look, they're in my head, they're one person because they're always Farabee and Frost. It's always like in the same sentence. So in my head, they're like the weird creepy twins holding hands. They're just the same person. Sorry.
The
No
Calgary
offense
Flames
to
are the Shining.
I mean, have you seen the Saddle Dome? Like, yeah. No offense to the gay people on Twitter. Sorry, gay people on Twitter.
Well, no, it's that thing too where I'm like, okay, like, all right, you two, whatever. I will say though, there is like the first like couple pictures of like Morgan Frost and Flames gear, like because I'm scrolling through the timeline, like my timeline on Twitter really quickly, and I'm like, that looks a lot. When you scroll very quickly, it looks a lot like Johnny Gaudreau.
Yeah. I saw people saying that they have like the similar like facial hair, the similar like facial shape, like the small face.
Yeah.
Very narrow face, I mean.
Like dark hair. Like it's just like if you scroll really quick, you're like, oh, that's
it's like shit.
Yeah. But yeah, that wasn't even like the first trade, but it also I think also as well as like Frost and Farabee, like trading them opens up cap space for Philadelphia, because Farabee is signed to $5 million. People buying Etsy curses on gay rare. That's the cost.
Yeah. Well, I saw something somewhere that said that Philly was gonna try and make a run at like a UFA this year, and it's like, well, who else? Because they already traded Rantanen.
Yeah, people were saying they were gonna get Pettersson, and I think everyone who thinks they're gonna get Pettersson is crazy, delusional, and a little bit cuckoo. To say it nicely. Well, to be fair, they were saying this on Thursday, so
okay.
It was
I was gonna say
before the other notable trade of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Morgan Frost is I'm surprised Morgan Frost hasn't found it. Sorry, I just saw that he's a Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound, and I was like, I'm surprised Kyle Dubas hasn't done something yet.
Oh, Kyle!
He will.
Maybe he was just waiting for him to leave Philly because he's like, man, I can't take him from Philly to bring him to the Penguins. He needs to go somewhere else first. There needs to be a buffer.
He's playing the long game.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Now that he's a Flame, he's gonna get an offer because
Flame
and Penguins, it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, but because it's like you're clearing out $7 million in cap space. Farabee is a free agent till 27-28. Frost is a free agent. He's a pending RFA at the end of this season. So we want to talk about offers.
That sounds like Kyle Dubas' music.
Kyle Dubas, I know you love a good offer sheet.
And I fear, no offense to the Frost fans. It's Frost too. Sorry, I genuinely can't keep them apart. But no offense to his.
Is the one who's a pending RFA.
Yeah, no offense to his fans, but he would support the tank in Pittsburgh. He is not. I'm so sorry, but he is not coming in with a significant burst of talent to energize that roster. He is very much adding to the pile of mediocrity, but just younger.
Yeah, that's the thing too with even Farabee as well, is he's in I'm just on his hockey TV page, but because he's also a $5 million cap hit and a UFA for 3 more years. Is he's in 50 games with the Flyers this season, has 8 goals, 11 assists for a combined 19 points.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And then people were like, why was he traded? Well, the Flyers probably want cap space.
Yeah.
Have we considered?
And Danny Weir did say, in his, when he talked to the media after the trade, he did say that he felt that he say that he felt that they were plateauing, they weren't improving. Yeah. He saw that some of the other players he saw that the other players were taking steps in the right direction and they kind of weren't. And I know that stats aren't everything, but as resident stats lover, the stats do kind of tell the story. Like, you do look at their production, and like, as producing forwards, you expect it to be more than what it is. And it's not like that. Like, there's some players who have that similar levels of production, but you can look at their like other seasons and say like, okay, this is just a down year, they'll come back from it, whatever. But there's no like evidence that this is just a down year. This is just kind of like career typical for them.
Well, it's one of those things too where it's like you look at, like, specifically I'm looking at Joel because that's just whose page I have open now. But like last year he hit 50 points, but like that's the like other than that, everything else is like that was almost like a weirdly good season for him compared to like that being the norm. That was the outlier season, was last year for him, 50 points. But also, as well as like, you have to look at like what the Flyers, because people don't realize this, and some of this is because the East is the way it is, that it's hard to differentiate teams who are like actually in the middle of a rebuild and teams who are like actually trying to make the playoffs, because the bar that separates them is like that line basically non-existent right now in the Eastern Conference. But like the Flyers are in the middle of a rebuild, and I don't think people like realize that when moves like this get made, where I'm like, no, this is a rebuild move, especially when you think about, like, you look at the prospects that the Flyers have and where they have those freaks out of London, Bonk and Barkey.
Bonk and Barkey.
And Luchenko.
And then Jet Luchenko, who is ridiculous, and you have like, there's, I don't know how good Bump is, but he also is there, and is a prospect.
Not Bonk and Thump. Dan Briere loves his onomatopoeias. He took a middle school poetry class, and he saw onomatopoeia. Yeah, I like me some of those.
But like Danny Briere's like, I can't wait to cook up a line of like Brink, Barkey, Bonk, and Bump. And like
something fell down. Something fell down on the draft floor, and Briere was like, Bonk, and they were like, really? Okay, we take Bonk. He was like, no, oh, okay, sure.
He's like, Bonk is actually a good player too.
Yeah,
but like,
I'm retelling history.
And he will be an Ottawa Senator in the future.
Yes, that Oliver Bonk yearns to be an Ottawa Senator, because I don't think I've heard anyone ever say that they're excited to play in the Canadian Tire Center, but like explicitly say the Canadian Tire Center and not be like, I'm excited to play World Junior Games in an NHL arena in front of like a home country crowd. No. Canadian Tire Center.
He loves the municipality of Canada. He just loves Canada.
Oliver Bonk yearns to live in Canada.
Oliver Bonk yearns to have discourse about whether the Sens are moving to Quebec. He yearns for the discourse.
Honestly, but like, that's my fault, because I've been the one who's been complaining about that discourse for about a week now.
My favorite part is the fact that like the discourse really, this is like totally off topic, but my favorite part is that the discourse didn't kick off when there was supposed to be games in Quebec. It kicked off when the mascot for that Quebec colored jersey, like, it was the mascot that was just a touch over the line. They were like, Ottawa Senators Twitter was like, this is too far, and it's a mascot.
Well, it was that. It was like, also, it was like, it wasn't even the preseason games. It was, the slight chance that you may have to give up a regular season home game to play a game in Quebec City. That, and then poor Spartacat. Because you know how bad it is when Thomas Chabot has to issue an apology for his coworker, which is a mime large cat named Spartacat.
Didn't the like president or something made a statement saying like, we're sorry to Sparty?
Yeah, like, you're forcing an NHL organization to apologize to their mascot because like it's a sentient person who had a say in wearing a split jersey when announcing preseason games in a former NHL city.
This is what DEI has done to Canada. This is what they're doing to the schools. This is what the woke liberals have done. This is why Trudeau resigned. I'm gonna follow that by saying this was a joke. That was a joke. I don't mean that. I said that sarcastically. Just covering my bases. Don't cancel me.
We have
Twitter besties. Don't cancel me, please.
Oh my god. We have like 3 more trades to get through.
I'm sorry. We haven't even gotten to Friday yet. We're still on Thursday.
Okay, so then Friday, to set the scene, Friday, I have a class that runs from 5:30 to 8:30, but it always ends early. So I was like packing up my stuff in class, and I get a notification from Elliot Friedman that says JT Miller trade is happening. And then this is where Kay takes over as president.
Yeah, so basically, from my side is, personally, I don't trust Elliot Friedman's reports on the Canucks anymore because of how many times the Canucks have been in the news. He often says, like, oh, the Canucks are interested in things, like the Petey thing last weekend where he was like, the Sabres are interested in Petey. Yeah, who wouldn't be interested in Petey? That's a 26-year-old 100-point center. Everyone is interested in Petey, but they're not trading him. Anyway, that's not the point. But Rick Dollywall, who's like the local Canucks kind of insider in Vancouver, he tweeted and he said JT Miller is going to be held out of the game for trade-related reasons, which was funny because literally like 10 minutes earlier, the Canucks had posted their walk-in video in Dallas, and Miller was in the walk-in video because he had walked into the dressing room. And then he was held out of the game for trade-related reasons, and then it came out that he was going to be traded to the New York Rangers, and there was like a little bit of time in between where there were still, of course, as always, the insiders are like working out the details. And then I think Larry Brooks of the New York Post posted the full trade, which is, if I can remember correctly, I'm doing this off the top of my head, it's JT Miller, going to the New York Rangers along with Eric Brandstrom and Jackson Dorrington, and going back to the Canucks was Philip Hedl, Victor Mancini, and first round pick, a protected first round, top 13 protected. Yeah. So the general consensus was the New York Rangers are getting past his prime guy who we needed to trade because there were so many rumors around him, as well as a kind of like AHL regular in Vancouver, at least, defenseman. He's like played a few games in the NHL. Okay, I'm saying, let me explain. Like,
he's played a few games because we said that we were talking about Eric Bergstrom, the two of us, and you were like, oh yeah, an AHL regular. And I was like, yes, but then he played most of a season last year in Ottawa. So you had time laughing at how you had to specify with Vancouver.
With Vancouver. Okay, this is my justification for saying AHL regular is that yes, he was in the NHL and played full season in Ottawa, and he played some games in Vancouver, but it was obvious, and he also played the preseason in Colorado. But it was obvious that the coaches didn't trust him in Colorado, and the coaches in Vancouver also didn't trust him because he's a really good offensive defenseman, but he is terrible at the defense part, which for most teams that are trying to compete, they don't want a third line offensive defenseman. Like, that's not really a role that they want to have played. So he's much better suited to the AHL, where he can be a top line offensive defenseman in the AHL. So he's, and also most likely for the Rangers, they will probably play him in the AHL as well in Hartford. So that's why I said AHL. And then Jackson Dorrington is an unsigned NCAA player from the later rounds of the 2023 draft, if I'm remembering that correctly.
6th round in 2022.
Okay, so 2022, and we haven't signed
Northeastern.
him. Yeah, he's in
over
the NCAA.
He's playing Northeastern.
So he is that's kind of like
will win
a
the
wash.
Bean Pot this weekend.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, so
that's what I'm learning, is that he will win the Bean Pot this weekend, because Northeastern apparently is very good.
Yeah,
but like only in the Bean Pot.
I don't know anything about him in terms of like him being a prospect. I didn't even remember that he was our prospect. So I was like, who is this man? I've never met this man before. I couldn't identify this man on the street. So that's kind of like a wash. And for the Canucks, honestly, I would say it's like a not great trade, considering that JT Miller just last year was a 100-point forward, and he's one of the most effective guys at faceoffs in the league. He's still a very productive guy. However, with all the noise around the Canucks, as I'm sure that everyone knows about the Rutherford comments and like the months of drama and speculation and the fight in practice and all this stuff kind of building up, like I wasn't expecting the Canucks to have much leverage, if any leverage. So I was honestly happy with the return based on the noise around Miller. Like if without the noise, we probably would have gotten more, but with all of the rumors, speculation, etc. around the team, I wasn't surprised that we got what we did. And honestly, I was pretty happy with it because Hedl is kind of like, I know he has a concussion history, but his like player profile when he's healthy is really similar to Miller, but he's $4 million cheaper and he's 6 years younger. So he's a very similar player profile and would slot really well in as our 2C. And Mancini is 230-pound, 6'3" right-handed defenseman who is 0.3 points per game in the few games he's played in the NHL already. So right now he's with our AHL team. I want to say he was called up for last night's game against the Detroit Red Wings, but he took warm up, but he didn't play. So I think he's going to stay in the AHL for now. I think he got reassigned to the AHL this morning.
Today, yes. Yeah. Today he did, along with DPD and
that's for
Linus Carlson. Cap, like there's some cap gymnastics going on there in Vancouver.
The Canucks,
but
Canucks have been doing that all year, where like all the players who don't have waiver or who are waiver exempt, they just put them up and down. And because Abby is like literally a 1-hour drive from Vancouver, they can just go and practice with the Abby Canucks and be back up the next night in Vancouver. So it's probably for cap accrual reasons. But so honestly, good trade for us. And then like 2 hours later so that was during the Dallas game. No, that was during the Dallas game. And then after the Dallas game.
It's the thing too where it's like I was over at Les and Les's roommates. I was over at their apartment because I was like, oh, I'm out of class. JT Miller got traded. I'm coming over with wine. I'll come over hanging out. And then I left, and literally I'd been home for granted I'd been gone like from their apartment for 20 minutes, and I was sitting on the couch watching New Girl eating an ice cream cone. Like I literally had like a drumstick in my hand. I was having a great time. And then I get the freaking Elliot Friedman notification, and I was like, what are we doing?
So
I just want to watch the Cece's wedding part of New Girl.
I want to pull up my text because I called it in advance. I told my dad. I said, I literally said that I told my dad, I said, I bet we will use the first for something else before the deadline. And what happened? What do? We used the first round pick along with Danton Heinen and Vinny Desharnais to trade
Melvin Fenstrom. And Melvin Fenstrom.
And Fenstrom. Sorry, Fenstrom.
Melvin.
He was our
He's
most
currently playing in the Swedish league.
Yeah, he's our most.
Does he even know he got traded?
He was he was our 2024 third round pick, which was our highest pick in the 2024 draft because we didn't have a first or a second round. So he was our most recent highest draft pick, which is why he's notable. So he went to Pittsburgh along with Danton Heinen and Vinny Desharnais, both players who struggled in Vancouver, and I was really excited that we kind of got their cap hits off of our books. And then we got back Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor, which means that the Canucks have 3 Petterssons, which is a delight for all of our announcers. But I will clarify that although there's 2 E. Petterssons, but it's harder.
There's 2 Elias Petterssons.
No, one's Elias Pettersson and one's Elias Pettersson.
But they're spelled the same.
They're spelled the exact same, but okay, so forward PD is Elias Pettersson. So that's 26-year-old forward PD, 100-point center, the guy. D. Pettersson, that's Elias Pettersson, and then D. Pettersson is Elias Pettersson.
Fascinating.
And then Marcus Pettersson, obviously, is just Marcus Pettersson. So that's you got Elias Pettersson, Elias Pettersson, and then Marcus Pettersson. It's much easier. It's much easier to distinguish them. It's much easier to distinguish them in an audio format, so at least the announcers have that. And our announcers have been doing a good job. Shout out to our commentators, John Shorthouse and Brendan Batchelor, who have done a truly remarkable job distinguishing between the three PDs whenever they're on the ice. Those poor men. They've put the PDs in a tongue twister, their pregame tongue twister.
Yeah.
But anyways, I like the trade for the Canucks. I might be in the minority, but I like it.
I think it's good. Like, Marcus Pettersson is a pending UFA. Drew O'Connor, I actually don't know, is also a pending. They're two pending UFAs, but like it's one of those things too where, like, I will say this as someone who feels like I know Kyle Dubas quite well, not even personally, just like the way he operates.
Close personal friend of the show.
Kyle this is the most this is an extremely Kyle Dubas trade for him to make, in the way of like, I think now's the time where you commit to the Pittsburgh Penguins rebuild. Apologies to Sidney Crosby. This is happening. Sorry, your children are getting stolen, but don't worry, you will get a new child.
Yeah.
Soon.
And it's good for us because, like, there's been reports even as early as today, because the trade happened on Friday. And as early as today, there have been reports, I think on 32 Thoughts, that the Canucks are trying to sign Marcus Pettersson to an extension. And I think they're waiting a bit on Drew O'Connor just to see kind of how he fits into the group a little bit more. But they're definitely trying to sign Pettersson to an extension. And honestly, a first-round pick for a top four defenseman, that makes sense. Like, it's the going price. Like, that would be the case. And it makes if you look at our forward group before versus now, like, before the trade, our forward group was the first top pair of Hughes Hronek, which great top pair, excellent start. And then it drops off immediately from there. And our second pair was Forbort and Myers. And no one wants a second pair of Forbort and Myers. But now our top four unit that they were kind of putting out in warm-up yesterday was Hughes and Myers on the top pair, and then Marcus Pettersson and Hronek on the second pair, and then Forbort and DPD Little Pettersson as our third pair.
Little Pettersson.
Listen,
is he actually like physically smaller than?
No, he's taller. Listen. Okay, here's the reason I call him Little Pettersson is because in 2022 he was drafted in the 3rd round, and I was listening to my favorite podcast / radio show. Shout out to Halford and Bruff in the Morning, and they were waiting for the Canucks were on the clock as they were ending the show. Their show ends at 9 a.m, and the Canucks were on the clock. And so they were waiting to end the show for the Canucks to make their pick. And the Canucks made their pick during commercial break because it was the 3rd round. So they came back from commercial break, and the Canucks had just finished picking. And they ended their show. They're like, "Are you kidding me? The Canucks just drafted another Elias Pettersson." And they ended the show with them laughing hysterically at the fact that there was now 2 Elias Petterssons in the organization. And Elias Pettersson posted an Instagram story of the Spider-Man meme, and it's still my favorite social media moment of his ever. He posted the Spider-Man meme photo immediately after Elias Pettersson was drafted, and then I made the meme of there are two players on your team. One of them is Elias Pettersson, and the other one is Elias Pettersson. Both of them are Elias Pettersson, and I think about that all the time. That day in 2022, excellent day to be a Canucks fan on the internet. Very excellent for me personally. But he is little PD for me because he literally said his favorite player when he was like going through the Swedish league was Elias Pettersson. And he like that man. I love that man. He's so sweet. And he's so Swedish. Like they're both so Swedish. Like they have the full like creepy blue eyes. Like listen, okay. Listen, I have blue eyes. I can say that. But like, you know the Barbie elephant? They look like the Barbie.
Yeah. The Violet Princess.
Yeah. Listen.
Mika,
They look like the
Barbie
elephant.
That is foul.
And someone made okay, I got sent this by my very good friend Rana, who's also writes for Outside News. Is this photo of them looking like the twins from The Shining?
Stop.
And like, okay, I know
reference we've made.
Okay, both by me. I'm so sorry. But like if you look, I know Elias Pettersson, he's shaved his head. He has a buzz cut right now. But like if you go back to his rookie season when he had like the floppy hair, they do really look alike. Like they do. And it's so they're so precious to me. I'm also like, if you can't tell, I'm an Elias Pettersson defender till the day I die. So Elias Pettersson for Selke, train will never stop. But but okay, I just really I adore the Petterssons, all three of them. I adore our little Swedish GM just getting all the Swedes, trading for all the Swedes. And I have a theory that he only drafts Swedes because he doesn't want to speak English on the draft floor, because there's so many videos of him drafting the Swedes and like thanking them and like introducing himself in Swedish. I'm like, man, just doesn't want to speak English on the draft floor, so he just drafts the Swedes. Thank you, Patrick Alvey.
This is like proof of like how little I know about like certain NHL GMs besides like the ones who work for my team and Danny Briere. Is like I thought Patrick Alvey, honestly, and maybe this is really bad, I thought he was like Quebecois or something, okay? I had never heard that man speak. I don't think I've ever seen a picture of him. I was like, oh yes, Patrick Alvey.
He's bald, and he like when he like he looks North American until he starts talking, and then you're like, okay, he's very Swedish. But I'm pretty sure, I could be getting this wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's one of the first non-North American GMs, either in the league or to coach the Canucks. One of the two, I don't remember, but he's one of the first. So. One of the first European GMs, which makes sense with the Swedish Canucksism.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the thing, is I thought that they were such an inherently Swedish team in the same way that like the Leafs are, where they're like, oh yes, we had the Sedin twins, we must be Swedish forever. And the same way the Leafs went like, Matt Sundin, Börje Salming, we're Swedish forever.
No.
But no, it's because their GM is Swedish, and he's like,
our GM is Swedish. We had
Swedish national team in the NHL.
Yeah, pretty much. We have so not only is our GM
and
Swedish,
Quinn Hughes.
We have
Quinn Hughes.
Honorary Swede.
Yeah, honorary
Swede Quinn.
But no, we have
at this
Alvin.
Point, probably.
We have Alvin as our GM. We have the Sedins, who not only are ex-players but are also our assistant coaches.
Yeah,
we have
both of them.
We have Trevor Linden. Trevor Linden, who was our ex-president of hockey operations and also an ex-player whose name is in the rafters. We have Marcus Naslund as well, advisor to the GM, ex-advisor to the GM, whose name is in the rafters. Icon. And then we have, of course, the various Swedes. For a while, we had like a string of Swedish goalies. We had Eddie Lack, we had Jacob Markstrom, and of course we had, so there's some other notable Swedes, Alex Edler, famous Canucks legend Louis Eriksson, very famous Canucks legend, 6x6 genius. Own goal king.
That's what I feel about like the David Clarkson signing for the Leafs.
Yeah. But anyways, like we do, like there has never been a point in time where the Canucks have not had a Swedish superstar. Like since Swedes were allowed in the league, we've had a Swedish superstar. We went Naslund, Linden, Sedins, Elias Pettersson the older, and now we have 2 more Petterssons. It's been a train the whole time. And we're just Team Sweden, what can I say? We love IKEA.
Truly.
IKEA
I love
and
IKEA.
Costco.
Exactly. And that's the thing. The when was it? I think last year when the Habs played in Vancouver for the first time, everyone was like, "Oh, Rajaka, I can't miss this game. It's the closest he'll ever play hockey to a Costco." Because if you've never been to Vancouver, if you've never seen the arena, like there's a SkyTrain station and underneath the SkyTrain station is a Costco, and then across the street is Rogers Arena. And so like when I go to hockey games, I'll literally get a Costco hot dog because they have a food window. Like it's like a concession window. You don't even have to go in. You can get like concession food outside at the Costco, and so you can get $1.50 hot dog and go into the game.
Oh my
That's
god, that's
crazy.
fan.
Yeah,
That's so
it's
great.
truly
I love
brilliant.
the $1.50 Costco hot dogs.
It's truly the best Canucks game hack. If you're going to Rogers Arena, do not get arena food. I beg you. It's so expensive. Just go to Costco before the game. Like go like 30 minutes early, get your hot dog, get your pizza, get your poutine. Like do your thing at Costco. It costs no money and you don't even have to go in. You don't even have to have a membership because they have like a concession window outside the Costco on the street and they have like tables and such. You can just go sit and eat your food outside the Costco.
That is
incredible.
Across the street from Rogers Arena. It's great.
Okay, so we've now broken down Friday as we move through the weekend.
So sorry.
We finished Friday, and then Saturday happens, in which I think that arguably, for some of us, the biggest trade of the weekend.
The biggest trade. Oh my god.
The biggest acquisition is the San Jose Sharks trade Mikael Granlund and noted Leafs and Oilers legend Cody
And Ottawa
Ceci.
Senators. And Ottawa Senators.
He is from Ottawa too, so it's like it's a whole thing. And Ottawa Senators, but like he's
legend,
not.
Cody
He sent
Ceci.
Mr. Game 7 Cody Ceci to the Dallas Stars for a first-round pick and a conditional 3rd-round pick that will be a 3rd only if Dallas makes the Stanley Cup Finals. If not, then it becomes a 4th. Which I should have said 4 that becomes a 3rd, but we're gonna ignore that. That's the way I've written it down in my notes. But like, that's a big if though. If Dallas makes the Stanley Cup Finals, as they stand currently right now.
Mama and Edmonton
yes.
Oilers in front of you yet again.
But also as well as like we're not. This is the one joke I'm going to make about a sport that's not hockey on this on today's episode. It was not the worst trade for Dallas this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you? Where were you that night?
Where were you on Friday when the biggest trade was Saturday? I thought it was on Friday too.
It was Saturday night. No, it was Saturday because I was home from the game. Like I had gone to the Ottawa Senators Minnesota Wild game, and I was back home sitting on my couch, and I was watching like the late Hockey Night in Canada game, which I think was Calgary and Detroit, and then the Shams tweet comes through and everyone's like, is this real? And then I had to call Simon about 30,000 times for him to not pick up the phone because he is an old man who goes to bed at 10 p.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah. I was FaceTiming my siblings like I do every Sunday night. And the first thing my brother asked me was like, this week on your podcast, are you going to talk about the Luka Doncic trade? I was like, no. I'm like, it's a hockey podcast. And he's like, but you got to talk about it anyway, right? Like, you've got to say something. No.
This you can just point in the direction of this episode.
Shout out to Andrew. This is for you, Andrew.
This was my joke.
This is a reference for Marcie. I was texting with one of my Newsies Twitter friends that I still know to this day. Yeah.
Wait, who?
Sid. I don't know if you remember Sid. A BTBI alum. She's our NBA source. Yeah.
Oh.
She's our NBA source because I was like, who wins this trade?
The Lakers.
The Lakers.
Yeah. The Lakers. Oh yeah. The Lakers.
The Mavs lost so bad. In terms of like trades over this weekend, the Mavs lost the worst. Like a lot of teams lost. New York lost that trade. The Penguins lost that trade, in my opinion. But the Mavs lost real bad. Real bad. Oh?
Yeah. But yeah, they lost so bad they were holding like a funeral outside of the arena.
I saw that.
But yeah, I will say like this trade for San Jose, okay. San Jose, very afraid of San Jose because they now have another first round pick. Which sure, okay, because it's Dallas, it's not a lottery pick, whatever. It's going to be a late, so it's going to be a late first round in the 2025 draft. It's essentially a second round pick, because of we've often discussed how like I don't want to say bad because these are hypothetical teenagers, but the 2025 draft is it's not that deep. You have like your solidified top 10, 12, like, ooh, watch this kid, he's crazy. And then after that, there's not a whole lot else in terms of like picks you think like of hypothetical teenagers who could have impact. Apologies to said hypothetical teenagers. But like San Jose, I can't even like remember if San Jose's allowed to get the first this year.
They are.
Yeah.
They can't.
They are?
Yeah, they can't pick 3 consecutive years in a row, but they can. But if it's spaced out,
isn't it like you can't have more than 3 first overall picks in 5 years, like something like that?
Oh,
shout out to the Edmonton Oilers.
I was gonna say, of course, the Oilers fan knows the first overall pick rules.
Listen, that's how we got Connor. They put that rule in place after we got Connor McDavid, so like we were fine. I would have shot for the 2013 and the 2014 too, but we're doing pretty okay as is.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure because I know we often talk about like Matthew Schaefer. I hope you like San Jose. I hope you like the color teal. But like, because like San Jose, like watch them end up with Matthew Schaefer anyways because the team they don't get the first overall, but the team who does get the first overall, I don't know, maybe it's Buffalo, doesn't need another first overall defenseman because they already have 2, and look how that's working for them.
Yeah, maybe they want Misa instead.
or Martone
Higgins too.
Or Martone.
Or Martone.
Yeah.
You know what, like, weird, like, if you send Mississauga Steelheads, like, noted Mississauga Porter Martone to Buffalo to hang out with other noted Mississauga guy, Owen Power, do you know what you could create there?
A monster.
God.
Something evil. Even more evil than what's going on in Boston already.
They won't
Buffalo.
make it to the first round.
Buffalo.
I think evil. I think Boston.
So fair. Preaching to the choir here.
2011 survivors stand up.
2013 and 16 and 17 and 19 and 20, 24.
Seven-year-old me who was was witnessing the riots on the news in 2011 thought that it was the apocalypse had come and the world was ending, and I was like, well, this is it, and I went to bed knowing that I would not wake up because the world would have ended. When I did wake up, I was quite surprised, and I had swim practice in the morning. So.
I watched Patrice Bergeron essentially save that like Boston Bruins core because like he was playing, like, people don't forget that he was like playing really badly before Game 7 against Toronto in 2013, and then for some reason he went like God mode, and I watched Patrice Bergeron essentially save the Boston Bruins core, and I cried and then had to go to school the next day, and it was the worst because everyone was upset. Which is funny because, like, yeah, we are upset. We also, like, the Leafs should not have made the playoffs in 2013 if you look at that roster. But, like, they did. And that itself is a miracle enough. But, like, everything else that came after that. It's okay, we got Austin Matthews. Everything's fine.
I had bad Edmonton Oilers till I was, like, 12.
Honestly, like, that's the same thing. I had bad Toronto Maple Leafs until okay, yeah, we made the playoffs in 2013, but, like, does that count? I think that's arguably more harmful for my psyche than just a bad team.
Real.
Was 2013, and then I also had a bad team until I was about 12, 13 years old. Yeah.
I was, like, the reverse. I had a really good team until 2014 was definitely the beginning of the end. Like, it was the end. So I'd say good team until 2014. So I had a good team up until I was 10. And then it was bad. It was real bad. It was ugly. It was bad. The late 2010s Canucks teams, those were bad teams. And then the Sedins retired, and then it got worse. Then we made the playoffs in that weird bubble year that no one remembers, and then it got even worse from there. Yeah. And then we were the center of the hockey universe with drama in 2022-23 with the Boudreaux firing, and yeah, it was bad. Quite bad. Yeah. But then it got better, and now I wouldn't say it's bad
now
again.
It's worse.
I wouldn't say it's bad. Honestly, okay, compared to, like, the year that we were, like, 22nd overall in the league, and we were, like, losing every game by, like, 5 goals, or not 5 goals, but, like, 3 goals every game. This is much better than that. But we are the drama talk of the league. What did I say in the work chat? I said the drama queen du jour, that's the Canucks. That's been us for, like, the past 2 months.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I will say, like, back to the actual trade. It's like, it's a good trade for San Jose in terms of the fact of, like, they get value for pieces in which, like, okay, maybe they weren't gonna hold on to Granlund, like, long term, and, like, probably not hold on to Cody Ceci, because if you're not making a game 7, what value is he to you?
He had a good rap in their Christmas, in their inflatable stuff, and that's it.
He had bars. He had bars in the Christmas inflatable song, and if anything, that's almost a better legacy than what you can do on the ice.
Exactly.
A lot of players in the NHL can play well on the ice, but not all of them can rap.
Not all of them have bars, but yeah. It's also one of those things where, like, Dallas is facing a lot of injuries right now in terms of just, like, hey, I don't know when Tyler Seguin's coming back. Miro Heiskanen is now out for who knows how long, and you kind of need to fill in those holes in your lineup. And, like, Granlund, who is I think it's, like, in 42 game, like, I can't remember. I said it out so many times at one point because I was trying to prove that this trade is actually, like, fine and not an absolute fleece job. I'm not going to say who I was arguing with. Everyone here knows who it was, but
oh yeah.
Marcie has my tweet notifications turned on.
I've experienced half of this, and you're much stronger than me, Emma.
But, like, it's, like, I think he's, like, something where it's, like, one of those things where it's, like, slightly less than a point per game, but, like, more than half a point per game kind of thing. Like, falls into that range of, like, yeah, that's what Dallas needs right now, because you don't have Tyler Seguin, and, like, San Jose, okay, sure, like just needs to be, like, functional. Much apologies to Will Smith Hockey and Macklin Celebrini, but San Jose just needs to be, like, functional right now.
Yeah.
And, like, because you can develop players on, like, a functional team.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I was just looking it up, but on Saturday before the trade, they also announced that Niels Lundqvist underwent season-ending shoulder surgery. So that's another one of their defensemen who was out. So Niels Lundqvist is on long-term injured reserve, and then Miro Heiskanen is on just injured reserve, I think. So they definitely just.
Yeah.
I was saying this in the work chat. They needed a defenseman. They needed an NHL quality defenseman.
And they got Cody Ceci.
And they got Cody Ceci. So they just needed someone. They needed someone to fill the hole.
Yeah, you need someone to put in the lineup essentially, or you need a guy as your seventh defenseman or whatever it is. But yeah, just whatever it's fine. But like, yeah, and those were all of the trades that happened, as it took us so long to get through those. But there's some like other news stuff too. There was some announcements for there was some replacements for Four Nations announced because speaking of Miro Heiskanen, it was Henri Jokiharju and Urho Vaikkonen for Finland to replace Miro Heiskanen and Jani Hakapa, who finally admitted that he will not be playing in Four Nations after this being like a thing since he was named to the roster. It's been like don't worry, he'll play. Here's his number that he's wearing. Like, no, he's not playing because he's not even like out skating, like playing with the Leafs right now. He's not going to get in a game before the Four Nations, which is something that he wanted. Like, he wanted a couple of games if he was going to play, and he just like is not going to get them because he can't skate, which is fine. He'll be an Edmonton Oiler in about a year from now.
Yeah.
Following the trend.
I hope he's not.
He'll be an Edmonton Oiler. He'll be an Edmonton Oiler in order to go nice and far into the playoffs.
Yeah,
sure.
Sitting in the press box, like John Klingberg probably will be.
Mm-hmm. Or he'll be in Bakersfield. Bakersfield's doing good this year.
Yes, Bakersfield. But yeah, I don't. It's like one of the things. It's like Jani Hakapa is like this year's John Klingberg, a defenseman from the Dallas Stars, coming from the Dallas Stars with a history of lower body injury, who plays a handful of games and then goes on LTIR for the rest of the year. Crazy that this has happened twice in 2 years.
That's like,
but then
Gio, no? Didn't Giordano do the same thing?
Giordano actually like played a lot of games. Like so many, like a lot. Like there was at one, he was like one of the besides the time he got a concussion, but there was many times when like the Leafs' entire blue line was hurt, in which like him and Justin Hall was the Leafs' top pairing, and it worked.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I was misremembering because I fully thought that he was on LTIR for a period of time, or maybe people just wanted him on LTIR.
He was last year, but that's because he had a concussion and also another injury, like at like very like it was like he came back from one injury and then like put on another one. And you could also be thinking of TJ Brody, who also did not play a lot of games last year because he got hurt quite a bit. Like he kept having hand injuries because he would like come back from his hand and then like first practice back or like second practice back or whatever after his first game back, like broke his hand again.
Gotcha.
And he's now in Chicago and is Cody's problem.
Poor Cody.
The other place where a lot of like former Leafs have now ended up is Chicago. Which kind of like very much validates my opinion that Toronto and Chicago are very similar cities. But
they host wonderful friends and former Leafs.
Yeah. But yeah, also as well, another Four Nations replacement. Rickard Rakell for Team Sweden was replacing William Karlsson. Not the Vegas Golden. There's been 2 Vegas Golden Knights who are now hurt and not going to Four Nations. And it's not the one that everyone thought.
Which is annoying because I was
which is annoying because we don't want Mark Stone to go.
I don't want Mark Stone on that team. What does he even do anyway? Should have been Nick Suzuki's spot.
Ricard Raquel is replacing the Golden Knight, who is actually injured because William Karlsson is out week to week and he's not playing in the NHL. Not the Golden Knight who pulled out of Four Nations but is still playing for the Golden Knights. That's Alex Pietrangelo.
Yeah, that one I don't understand. That one's a weird one where I'm like,
well,
you could have just said no when they called you.
Yeah. Well, apparently is that he has like a recurring injury, like not really an injury, but like more like a muscle soreness. And they basically used like at least the piece I read from the Golden Knights beats writer because we talked about it in last week's podcast. The beat reporters for like Vegas, they basically said that like because he has this recurring injury and also he's like 35, he's like I just don't think I can play that many games like physically anymore. I want to be able to be 100% for the playoffs and not have to take time off in March and April, so I'm just going to take the 2 weeks. So I guess he would have played if he was 100%, but because he's not 100%, he'd rather take the time, which like fair enough, but also it's like it's not a great look for the NHL because they're like, yeah. And especially because like we're in the same time, Greg Wyshynski released a tweet that was like, there's not going to be the same penalty for Four Nations as there is for All Stars, so they're not going to have any penalty they're not going to have to miss a game before or after the Four Nations break if they just pull out of Four Nations for any reason at all, not like All Stars where there's a penalty. So it's like, oh, they're really just relying on like, yeah, they're really just relying on. They're just relying on national pride to get people to the Four Nations, and like obviously that's not enough for some people.
Yeah, national pride in a tournament that doesn't matter. Like it's purely bragging rights. I don't even know if there's like a cash prize involved with this. Probably not. Like not in the way that it's marketed. It's such a strange tournament because it's like, I know like we're all excited about it and excited to watch it because I think they're also like in terms of marketing it to fans and things like that, they're really riding on the aspect of like best on best hockey is back. You wanted to watch best on best hockey, right? Like that's what you always talk about is wanting to watch best on best hockey. Well, here's best on best hockey, but it's not all the best on best hockey. It's only 4 teams and it's not the reigning world champions.
Yeah.
And there's no
Czechia is not there.
There's
well, that's what I said. It's like they're not sending, like it's not in the same way as like the Olympics will have that. Like Olympics will have the draw because it's like there's so many really good players who are not going because they aren't like Canada, US, Sweden, or Finland. It's like okay, so there's no David Pastrnak, there's no Leon Draisaitl, Tim Stützle,
and
no like none of the Russians either. Like which
they wouldn't be there anyway.
There have been Russians at the Olympics, but like but if you wanted to like talk about best on best hockey in the way of like, hey, remember the Olympics in 2014?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It's such a strange tournament.
And like honestly, I'm excited to watch Four Nations, but at the same time, like as a Canucks fan, I want Quinn Hughes to sit out because he has like he has a hand injury that's been bandaged up for almost a month, and he just got a lower body injury against Dallas where he sat out in our last game against Detroit because they wanted to rest him. And he said he could have played, but Taka was like, no, you're in timeout, you're not playing. Like you refused to let him play. So I want him to sit out of Four Nations because, like, at the end of the day, it's a tournament where the prize is bragging rights, and I'd rather make the playoffs. Like, that's my perspective. Like, I think it would be fun to watch, but I think for all the players who are, like, kind of half injured, I don't want them to push through it. I'd rather them just say, hey, I'd rather take these 2 weeks to rest, that type of thing. Even though, like, national pride, but also, like, please rest your body. This is not the playoffs. There's no meaning for this. Like, you will be called up again. I don't know.
I will say though, like the 2 weeks, like teams always as well have always gotten a bye week in the month of February. That's just the way the league has always functioned. It's like I understand it's a way to replace the All-Star game because the All-Star game they tried the good old, hey, have McDavid plan something for you. And McDavid won his own thing. So
I stand with Connor McDavid. I think he should do it more.
With my kids.
This is what I'm saying. This is why I said that Lenny McDavid is going to be jealous of
Phoebe Stetcher.
Of Phoebe Stetcher winning the Rough Rough Relay, because I already know that McDavid's a sore loser because he won the game that he designed. So his dog is obviously the same. That's my conspiracy theory. I think that Lenny McDavid is conspiring against the other Oilers dogs.
That's why he sat out yesterday.
That's why yeah, exactly. Exactly. He's at home on his heated driveway just scheming.
But like that's the thing, it's like the All-Star game, like it's one of those things where it's like they've tried to figure out a format. Florida like kind of worked because it was in Florida and you're like, look we're gonna put NHLers in dunk tanks, and everyone cheered because it was a white t-shirt contest. Is that a bad thing to say? Is that a little bit? Well, I got canceled on the internet for that sentence. Am I wrong though?
No.
I was on Twitter that day. I'm sorry.
I remember the implications of Sidney Crosby in a wet t-shirt.
Like, that's what it was, okay? And that's what they were trying to do. But like also to be there and like to be like there and bought tickets for the skills competition, it wasn't as great of an experience because you were watching half of it like not happen in front of you because it was like. And it was still like, it's not to say that it wasn't entertaining, and like they did the kind of the same thing for Vegas, but it like still wasn't the same. I mean, there's some still funny moments from like 2 years ago from the All-Star game, like having Nick Suzuki win the golfing competition where the prize was free Chipotle for a year, in which he plays for a team that exists in a province that does not have a single Chipotle. So therefore he can only use it when he's on the road. Hilarious, comical, peak comedy.
So funny.
But it's like also like last year as well. It's like, okay, it was in Toronto. That's fun. You brought back the player draft for the teams. Also fun, but you didn't do the same thing where like you were, which also I think is also a good thing, is like not providing alcohol to NHLers. But in the past, they had the players drinking during the player draft. And
Which
also as well
so
is like, which is so good. Like, go back and watch, like, if you haven't watched, like, old NHL All-Star player drafts, go back and watch them back when they were, like, real, and someone could get picked last, and Ovi, and, like, when you got picked last, you got a car, and Ovi wanted to get the car so badly that he was doing all in his powers. They should have given him.
They didn't even let anyone get picked last. They had everyone.
No.
They had everyone get picked at the last four get picked at the same time. Which, boo! They should have gotten picked last, but gotten a prize for it.
And it's like also as well as like, oh, like picked last, and it's like you don't even like pick. It was like from envelopes too. So it's like, but also as well as like, oh, let someone pick last. I'm like, you're not gonna hurt their feelings. They're grown men who have probably as children were never picked last for anything in their lives. Like, when you think about it.
It would have been so much funnier if they had them pick last and like hype up this big prize. Like, oh, if you get picked last, you get the big prize, and it's like a finger skateboard. It's like a just like something really like little and stupid, or it's like a themed Hot Wheels car. It's like, look at this crazy gift, and it's like a dentist toy, like that sort of thing. Like, oh, look at this crazy expensive gift you're gonna get for getting picked last, and it's like a rainbow slinky. Like, I don't know, it's like something stupid.
This crazy gift. Oh, here it is, a Drew House hoodie.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like something like really stupid, like not valuable at all. So they're like hyping up this huge prize that is actually just like something stupid, and then they have to pretend to be like happy about it. I think that would be really funny. Maybe that's mean, but I think it would be funny.
Yeah, and it's like they make it, but like that's what Four Nations is replacing. And it's like, okay, I understand you still want to make money during this time, but it's also like this tournament runs for 8 days. Which, like, if you, and I think we've mapped it out in the past, of like looked at the calendar and been like, okay, so like how much time do the guys who are playing in the tournament actually get off? Because in the past, when like you're playing in the All-Star game, you still get a bye week because everyone gets the All-Star game off and then everyone gets a bye week. If you're in Four Nations, you lose your bye week. You lose your week off. So apologies to Sidney Crosby. He can no longer go to Vail. Sidney Crosby's missing out on his Vail trip.
Knowing him, he'll probably still like fit it in the schedule, like on and off day. He'll charter a plane when everybody's headed to Boston, after Canada.
And go to Vail.
He'll go to Vail.
He'll go to Vail. But like, anyways, I have like complicated thoughts on Four Nations because like I love best on best hockey, but it's like also like this is some weird cheat thing where I can see through like the NHL's like curtain of like we're doing this because we want to make money, and it's like I can see through that curtain a lot because I've looked at ticket prices.
Yeah. I have paid ticket prices to go to Four Nations with lovely staff writer Aria, and oh boy.
yeah, friend of the show and former guest.
Yeah. And like honestly, my big thing about it is that I'm really excited to watch best on best hockey, but I don't want players to treat it like they would the playoffs. Like I don't want them to play through injuries. I don't want them to like exert themselves in the same way they would during the playoffs or during the Olympics or during like an actual World Cup. Like I want them to play if they're healthy and if they're like in a good mental space, but if it would be more beneficial for like their NHL hockey teams for them to not play. I don't want them to play. And even players on rival teams. Like even I say this like mostly about Quinn, but I would say this even for players on rival teams because I don't want the players to treat it like the playoffs because at the end of the day there's no reward for it. At the end of the day there's no Stanley Cup. It's no one's lifelong dream to play in the Four Nations Faceoff. Like no one grew up as a kid and was like, wow, I really want to win bragging rights. Like no one dreams of that. So it's just like I feel like they shouldn't be like treat it with the same magnitude, if that makes sense.
Especially also because it's like this tournament also at the same time I'm like because like the structure is really weird in terms of the fact that it is a tournament, but like not in the way you think of like, oh, it's a bracket. No. They do a round robin.
Dumb. It's so dumb.
They do a round robin, but they don't use like the standard international point system of 3-2-1, which is what you do in shorter tournaments because there's so many less games that are getting played. So the odds are if you do a 2-1-0 like point system, you're going to have way more ties than if you do a 3-2-1. They're doing a 2-1-0 in a tournament with 4 teams. There's going to be a tie somewhere. And then you're deciding a one-off final. Like, who's going to go to this one-off final for a tournament for bragging rights based on, like, tiebreakers?
Based on goal differential.
Oh, God. Canada
based on head-to-head record.
Yeah. It's so frustrating. And, like, part of this is it's like, why can't we just have the World Cup of Hockey? Like,
oh my God, I love the World Cup of Hockey.
I love the World Cup of Hockey so bad. I love Team Europe.
No. Team North America. Team North America stands
Team North America.
Yeah.
Best friend Brant Clark. We get to talk about best friend Brant Clark. Justice for best friend Brant Clark right now, though, too.
Honestly, oh my God, that makes me so mad. But no, like, I have my own theories because they were talking about how, you know, they're doing Four Nations now, but they're looking to do World Cup of Hockey in 2027. Oh, 2028, sorry.
Yeah, because 2027 they're bringing back the All-Star game.
Right.
I was locked in for that, Gary. Is it in Long Island?
It's in Long Island.
UBS?
Yeah, it's in Long Island. Because they have the newest rank. I know. It's gross.
Ottawa, I need you to lock in so badly.
But
NCC, you better fold.
But no, I have my own theories because they're talking about bringing back World Cup for 2028, but they're wanting to do it without IIHF overview, which is like, it's like we all knew that Four Nations was kind of like the trial run for the World Cup of Hockey, but now that they want it without IIHF sovereignty, I'm like,
you want Russia.
You want Russia,
and you don't want the players to travel, so they're more easily accessible for teams. So you can make all the games in North America, so they don't have to travel other places.
And
last time they had the World Cup of Hockey was in Toronto
and Montreal. I'm pretty sure it was Montreal. Yeah, but
I remember.
I do too. I was locked in.
Real ones remember the real sickos remember the 2016 World Cup of Hockey.
Yeah.
But because it's really fun. It was one of those ideas that I tweeted, like one of those article ideas when it first announced, like when it was first announced last year at the All-Star game, like bringing back the World Cup of Hockey, I was like one of those things, not to do 2028 because that, but like to do like, oh, if you held the World Cup of Hockey like this year, I toyed around with like that article idea just because I was like, oh, what like Team North America roster could you build?
Owen Power and Brant Clark. We're just remaking the 2023 World Juniors Team Canada team.
Arbor Xhekaj.
Like, we're finally putting Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrity on the same roster. Yay. This is going to be fantastic. No, and then because it's U20, you put Will Smith in there too. Like,
we just literally get annoying with it.
We just get real like that's the thing too, is like the fun thing about Team North America is like it's a stacked roster, and also it's like the only time that Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid probably will ever play on the same team ever. Like, bar of course what everyone thinks is going to happen, Connor McDavid to the Leafs in 2026.
His wife is starting a bar in Edmonton. She is not leaving.
So
you're saying that Lauren Kyle McDavid is gonna leave the city of Edmonton when she's got how many business there?
She liked the post with Steph Martin in Toronto.
She liked the post of all the Canucks new arrivals on the Canucks Instagram.
She did.
Just saying.
I'm gonna go further than a yurt. I'm gonna go further than a yurt. Don't even.
I didn't say anything except the facts. It is factual that she liked the Canucks new arrivals post on Instagram. That's all I said. I said nothing else. That's just true. That's just what happened.
Have we considered the comedy in like not 10 years from now, in like 7 years from now, Connor McDavid pulling like a Claude Giroux and signing with the Toronto Maple Leafs?
No. You know what's funnier though?
No.
Connor McDavid going to the Montreal Canadiens.
Yes! Everyone clapped and cheered. Who clapped and cheered? I clapped and cheered.
Mars like specifically very quiet right now.
I'm enjoying you guys yapping, and also I can't stop yawning, and I'm really sorry. You're not boring me. It's just late.
It's 9:45.
Yeah, I went to sleep at 10:30 last night. I'm tired.
Is 10:30 10:30 or 9:30? It's 10:30.
10:30. 10:30.
Okay, I always get confused when people say like 10:30. I'm like, is that half before 10 or half after 10? What are you talking about?
No, past 10 is 10:30. Isn't
that makes
10
sense.
9:30?
No.
Is that also 10:30?
Both are 10. Half
10 is 10:30.
If someone said to me, if someone said to me, be there at 10:30, I would show up at 9:30 and just be okay with that. I would show up. Sorry, that's totally off track. I get confused sometimes.
But it's fine. But yeah, sorry.
I'm baffled.
I'm so sorry.
You know what we could put together eventually down the road? Dylan Strome to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yes.
Have we considered?
See, I could see that. Have
we considered the narrative implications?
I could see that happening
the narrative
over
implications.
Connor McDavid going to the Leafs.
Have we considered like the
Leafs really need another over $10 million forward. They really need another one.
Hey, the cap's going up.
That can't fix all your problems, though.
Hear me out. Have you considered Dylan Strome, Connor McDavid reunited on the Toronto Maple Leafs?
No, because I genuinely don't think about Dylan Strome and Connor McDavid.
Wow, never. Someone wasn't tuned into the 2015 draft like other people were.
Oh, I was, but it's been 10 years. Sorry, but like
so
hasn't stopped Kasey and I.
Oh, I know. But if you're asking me, have I considered it? I haven't. No, I haven't. I haven't thought about those men. Peace and love.
Oh.
Sorry.
Speaking of the salary cap, as we're talking about this, we'll do a quick brief thing on the salary cap going up over the next 3 seasons, to the point that, like, I'm loading the tweet right now. I have a link already. But in next season, it's going up to $95.5 million. In 2026-27, we are breaking the $100 million threshold and going up to 104. In 27-28, it will go to 113.5. All of those numbers are the 2026 through 2028 is like projected. They could still go up even more based on league revenue, which is huge for the league, that the league is able to make this much revenue, that like it can go up this much. I am not going to start a one-sided argument with Alan Walsh on the podcast, however, and talk about the reason why we have a salary cap and why it's the way it is. Alan, I feel like my thoughts on the salary cap is very clear, and the fact of like half the league would have gone under had we not had a salary cap, and also like the discrepancy between like elite players and like your average Joe hockeys would have been huge in terms of what they get paid.
Player parity,
like, you know, like, also look at the MLB. To reference baseball, the Toronto Maple Leafs would become the LA Dodgers, and no one would like us. Like, no one would like us like more than they already do.
Yeah. Which is saying like, something.
People would not like you even more, which is a really hard thing to do.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like people, you know, like you can, I don't know, I feel like there's people who like don't like us but can like respect us. People won't respect us if we could spend like the LA Dodgers.
Yeah. The Dodgers are an evil, evil team.
It's okay. We have Max Scherzer now. Everything's fine.
Mid-podcast Max Scherzer reaction. For context, Kasey was reacting to the Max Scherzer trade while I was waxing my poetic monologue about the state of the Canucks organization and the Rutherford comments, and therefore I was just trying to keep talking while they were like bug-eyed in their screen. And so I was like, I'm just gonna keep talking. I'll let them have their moment, and I'm sure they'll jump in when they're ready.
But yeah, and because also as well, to finish off the show, I'm realizing now we're nearing this call is nearing 3 hours in length. I don't think the podcast is 3 hours long. But it's been a big weekend.
I think it's hit like 2.5.
There's been a lot of things happened this weekend, hockey related.
Yes. There was also, due to like, if you're not following the political situation between Canada and the US, are you living under a rock? Because I'm betting since you listen to this podcast, you probably are on Twitter, and therefore, how are you missing this? But due to that, there was some booing at the U.S. national anthems at various Canadian Canadian games. The first ones, I would like the record to show that the first people to do it were the Ottawa Senator fans on Saturday night against the Minnesota Wild. But no, it had to be the Vancouver Canucks who ended up on Pop Crave.
Well, I have to mention the optics here, okay? The anthem singer we got to sing the U.S. national anthem on the day that the anthem was booed was a Black disabled woman on Black Excellence Night. And they were booing her. She got a really big cheer after the anthem was over. So she obviously knew that the boos weren't for her singing, because she was a really beautiful singer, and they cheered really, really loud after the anthem was over, so she knew it wasn't at her. But I felt so bad for her because she was like visibly shaking because she was really nervous and everyone was booing her. I felt really, really bad because it wasn't our normal anthem singer. Obviously, she's like a special guest brought in for Black Excellence Night. But yeah.
Okay, so
Oh
yeah,
my
maybe the
God.
optics are a little bit worse. I will say, yeah, because I was at the Ottawa Senators game. There was booing during the anthem, and then to make it like really clear that like, and I appreciate this in the way of making it clear like it wasn't booing the anthem because she did a great job with a
Yeah.
very difficult anthem. Like notably, the U.S. anthem is very difficult to sing as someone who has sung it at a sporting event before. But in terms of like actually done the singing, it was a choir, so it wasn't just me. I've talked about this on the podcast before. If you find the video of it and send it to the show, I will applaud you and also be very afraid on if you know me in real life from like elementary school.
Choir singers rise up.
Choir singers rise up.
Like, and when I was in elementary school, if you didn't do elementary school choir, like you weren't cool and didn't have anyone to play with at recess. That's how many people did elementary school choir when I was a kid, like at my elementary school. Like you did it because if you didn't have anyone to play with at recess. So, but yeah, there were like they cheered like really loudly at the start and the end of the Canadian anthem to make it like very clear, hey, this is because Donald Trump is an asshole, not because you're a bad singer, which I think is very fair.
Same in Vancouver. Yeah. They cheered really loudly at the start and the end of the Canadian anthem, and they also cheered really loudly at the end of the U.S. anthem to like show the singer that they were on her side and they were cheering for her. And also they sung the Canadian anthem very, very loudly, very, very patriotically.
No. Oh yeah, it was one of those where it's like, oh yeah, no, people like it's one of those things where it's like I noticed because I was even there. Like it was another sold out game in Ottawa, which congrats the Ottawa Senators for selling out 2 Saturday night games in a row at home. Because I was there last weekend for the Leafs game, and it was much louder against the Minnesota Wild. I will say, it turns out the secret to selling out games at the CTC is you play the Leafs and then you do a Star Wars themed night against the Minnesota Wilds. In Marc-André's final season before he retires. But I got a lightsaber, okay, for free.
It's the little things.
Look, I was very much won over by the Sens themed night because they went like full in. You like prior to warm-ups, the only music that was getting played was like Star Wars soundtrack. So I listened to Cantina Band so many times.
That's beautiful.
They should have done Cantina Band mixed with a hip. Like give me a remix with blown high dough.
Wheat Kings, but in Cantina Band.
But also as well as like they did like a whole like pregame thing where they like did a whole special intro that had like the rolling text and everything with like made it all like themed and everything. And then there was like they showed like various clips from like the Star Wars movies, but like with like superimposed like Sens players like faces over it. And then at one point we're like apparently Shane Pinto's Anakin Skywalker, but then also as well they had like they did it where like they made, you know, like Revenge of the Sith where Anakin goes to kill the children. They did that, but they made the children like the Minnesota Wild, and you know the one that says, "Hey, Mr. Skywalker." They made that one Marc-Andre Fleury.
When they're losing 6-0.
No, this was prior to the game. This was prior to the game.
At least they didn't do it during the game. That would have been really mean.
That would have been so bad.
But like the one child in that scene who has like a line, they made Marc-Andre Fleury.
They casted it completely. I don't know what to say. Their casting director was great.
But it was like they went full in, and literally it got to the point where like I was there with a friend and we literally just sat like we're sitting, we're like, what is going on? What is this? This is insane. But they went full in with the theming. They had like even the tweets and stuff were like Star Wars quotes, which like hats off to like the Sens Twitter admin for having to come up with that many for how many goals they scored.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Minnesota Wild, yeah, it was a tough game on Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
And then But I don't know if you guys had anything else. I feel like I've forgotten something, but I can't tell. We could end it here though, unless you guys had a discussion you wanted to bring up.
After in the first penalty that the Red Wings got last night against the Canucks, John Shorthouse, our announcer, made a joke that the power play for the Red Wings would be 2 minutes and 30 seconds due to the 25% tariff. And I did laugh.
Incredible. Oh, it's brilliant.
I will say, I'm sorry, this has become like incredible, like cannon fodder for like the best, the funniest people you know on the internet.
Yeah. We're getting CanCon all the time.
It's turned into CanCon Twitter. I love my CanCon Twitter.
In this house, we love CanCon. Also, one final update. Oh god, this is scary. Craig Berube was unsure if Mitch Marner would be available to play Tuesday in Calgary. Max Domi will take his spot alongside Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes at the event. Marner can't go. This is terrible. This is so terrible because I'm sure that like Dustin Wolf is going to play and like he's stupid ridiculous as a goalie. I listened to him on After Hours on Saturday. I'm like, what a kid. And he's stupid, ridiculous, and good as a goalie. And like, despite being small and short for a goalie. But yeah, this is just so terrible. This is so awful bad. This evil Calgary Flames with like, oh no, Nazem Kadri's gonna score, isn't he? Oh, and Tyson Barrie. Oh, this is awful.
Oh,
this is a.
So we have to watch. We have to watch those goals happen.
I'm saying nothing. I will choose peace for your podcast.
We have to watch those goals happen, and we have to deal with Max fucking Domi. I'm like, I could cry.
You need to. It's one of those things where like people are like putting together these packages that include like Fraser Minton and Easton Cowan, and I'm like, okay, but like the only way that that's worth it is if you get like not a rental. It's not like you're not trading a rental. You're getting like Dylan Cousins. Dylan Cousins doesn't solve our problems either. We need a third line center, but like you are getting like a top 6 player with term. That's the only reason why I would ever put Fraser Minton and Easton Cowan reluctantly on the table. But like, but the only way you can do that is if you offload salary because you have no cap space for a top 6 player with term, and trading prospects doesn't relieve the salary. So then you have to trade some guy who could, AKA any way you fold it, you have to get rid of Max Domi at the deadline. That's my rationalization for everything. And people are like, oh, I'm like, does Max Domi, like, I don't know. I have issues with Max Domi, and a lot of them just come back to the fact of like, I need this. I know he doesn't shoot. Like, notably, he doesn't shoot. That's his whole like deal. But like, also like, can he shoot?
Like, that's his whole deal. Ooh, look at me, I'm Max Domi and I don't shoot the fucking puck. Stop.
He didn't do it on the Habs. He won't do it here.
He's not doing.
It's one of those things.
I think he should play more. I think he should get more minutes and play on the power play.
Do you want me to like?
He is on the power play. He's on the second power play.
I think he should be on the power play for the whole 2 minutes. Just keep him out there.
Do you want me to do something incredibly drastic? Because I will.
No, but I revel in the Leafs' failure. This is why I had to stay silent. This is why I can't speak on Leaf things.
This is why as soon as we were done talking about the Leafs, Catherine had a lot to say.
Yeah. This is why I stayed silent during the Leafs and Oilers section. I zipped and then I was released from my prison.
Yeah.
I hope you can feel like the British just smite.
The passive aggressive.
Yeah, just
okay.
like.
Yeah.
It's okay, I'll come back around.
I'm okay with that. based on my footy preferences, I have a lot of that from the Brits, and I'm okay with it.
Question on the footy side. Man City or Man U? Think very carefully.
I hate both of them.
Which one do you hate more?
This is a trick question. Right now, Man City. Are you a City fan?
I'm not a fan of either. However, my dad's a Man City fan, which means I have to hate them the least.
I see. I can't support that. I'm so sorry. I can't support the state-owned oil money mess. No, I can't do it.
It's okay. I can't support you, so.
Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. My team beat Man City 5-1 yesterday, so. Nothing to say to that. I 5-1. Anyways, that's not the point. Sorry. No humility when we win 5-1. Anyways.
It's okay. You'll suffer soon enough.
I totally forgot that the Florida Panthers were at the White House today, and now I'm like,
I wasn't gonna say anything because no one wants to hear the political science students speak. It's yeah.
I didn't realize that was today.
I forget that they always do it during the season and not like during the off season. Which I'm like, why? I don't know.
I did think it was funny that like there was a tweet earlier that was like Trudeau and Trump have scheduled their big political call for after the Florida Panthers visit the White House. It's like, yes, you reschedule your political talks around the hockey team.
I mean, I do the same. My life is scheduled around the hockey schedule.
Yeah,
exactly.
But apparently, we're not gonna. This is not a political podcast. We could go if this became a political podcast, we could talk forever about politics. Specifically right now.
Yap so much more.
Yeah, but I think we'll end it here. I think before we like get lost on another tangent and this ends up being like 4 hours long. The people don't need that. I hope you've enjoyed this what will be a very long episode.
Chaotic episode.
Mega.
Very
chaos episode.
The chaos episode. This is what happens when like you have like 4 people on. I'm realizing now, I'm like, the more guests we have on, the longer the episode's going to be. That tends to be just the way things go. I mean, also, fair enough, it was a very big weekend in the NHL with a lot of things going down, some of which were more expected than others, I feel like. I don't know, I'm just saying, like, I thought we were kind of all like, JT Miller trade happened, we were like, yeah, okay, that was going to happen anyways, kind of thing.
And then they traded Cody Ceci for a first.
Not saying anything. I've already had that argument on Twitter this weekend.
You've been there, done that.
I only kid.
I know you only kid. I just have to make sure that not everyone who says that is serious. With that being said, thank you guys so much for listening. Where can we find you two on the internet?
I'm at Low Score on Twitter. And
I'm at Fishweights, and our podcast is at The Coast Pod on Spotify or on Twitter, and then it's The Coast Podcast on Spotify.
And all of that, as always, will be in the show notes, as where we put everyone. Thank you guys. Congratulations on making your podcast debut. If we had a budget, we'd mail you guys pucks, but we do not have a budget.
Aw, thank you.
If someone pays us, think about how we can give our guests pod debut pucks. Just think about it. Think about how cool that'd be. We could actually afford to mail things.
It's the thought that counts. You're giving us future consideration.
It'll be
just like Kyle Dubas did to the St. Louis Blues. Or Pierre-Louis Joseph.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you guys for coming. But yeah, if you want to learn more about the Pacific Division, because we don't talk about the Pacific Division like very much, because we kind of sworn off talking about the Vancouver Canucks, and also like neither of us can stay up late enough for those games. Go listen to The Coast. It's a great show. These two do a great job. In terms of where you can find this show, we're wherever you get your podcast, on all platforms, literally everywhere. I've checked this in the past couple of weeks to be like, actually, can you find us everywhere? You can literally find us anywhere you get your podcast. I've tried and tested it. It turns out I've managed to hit all the right settings that we are everywhere. You can also follow the show on Twitter at From the Fourth Line. That's fourth with the number 4TH. And if you really find Marcie and I hilarious between episodes and you miss us, you can go follow us on Twitter at 6 Leafs for Marcie, at PearV1 for myself. Thank you so much. And unfortunately, despite you guys being here, we do end the show with the Go Leafs Go every single time.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
I have
morals. You tell we've only had other Leaf fans on as guests?
I'm sorry. I really can't do it. I can't do it.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back on Thursday with another episode. In the meantime, let's play that hockey.
Let's play that hockey.
Let's go do that hockey.
Go Leafs, go.